Chapter 12:31. The situation in the three realms had eased up. At the very least, there were no more battles on the surface. In the dark, there was still a storm brewing. On the side of the catacombs, the establishment of the new heavenly court had also caused a stir in the three realms for a while. Many people had not returned previously. Now that they had returned one after another, it was also a secret struggle. Over at the catacombs of the close to 200 true God powerhouses from before, there were heavy casualties this time. Less than 1/3 survived. But even if it was only a third of them, there were still 50 to 60 true God realm experts. Among them, there were 1,000 Goblin King, Heaven Goblin King, and other emperors. Not only the catacombs, but the grandmasters were also being reshuffled, and so were the overseas immortal islands. There were also many emperor-level experts from the outer seas immortal islands and the sky beyond skies. This time, they returned one after another, but the situation was different from before. Now, some of the outer seas immortal islands were even occupied by experts who had recovered. Chaos was inevitable. The chaos was not as obvious as before, but the battles in the dark were continuous. While Fong Ping and the others were having a meeting, the catacombs. In the end, Hong Yu chose to step forward and walked up to the stage. Hong Yu had not expected it to happen so quickly. It was too fast. According to his thoughts, the fake heavenly grave would need to be maintained for at least half a year or even a year. That was the normal amount of time. For experts of the older generation, half a year or even a year passed in the blink of an eye. So many people went in. The situation was chaotic, and everyone was wary of each other. Was it difficult to drag it out for a year or so? However, the truth was beyond his expectations. A few days after Fong Ping entered, the fake sky grave opened completely. This also messed up some of his plans. Heavenly Palace. This was where the new heavenly court was located. During these days, the 9 saints were also undergoing modifications. Imperial Court's area began to expand. Immortal mist swirled about, energy liquefied. All types of heavenly materials and earthly treasures were transported here. Large amounts of energy mines were moved here. Compared to the bounded domain that Fong Ping had envied in the past, this place now looked more like the immortal world. The 9 saints ruled the catacombs, and no one dared to resist. A large number of female martial artists were sent to the heavenly court as tributes by the 4 forces. They were not forced, but voluntarily, and the quota was even hard to come by. It was like a talent show in ancient times. This was more exciting than a talent show. A group of invincible experts was establishing the celestial court, and they were in need of manpower. It was also a chance for them to reach the heavens in a single step. The catacombs were huge. There were many of the 4 major royal halls, dynasties, and divine sects. The previously desolate and uninhabited celestial palace was now filled with beautiful women. They shuttled back and forth within the celestial palace. The golden age had reappeared. It was the same for the celestial heavens of the past. Groups of powerful martial artists clad in golden armor patrolled the heavenly palace. Among them were experts from various corps in the catacombs and some immortal court army of the earthly emperor god dynasty. The batch of immortal court army in the king's battlefield was the last batch of immortal court army. However, some soldiers of the immortal court army who followed Qing Mo and the other temple masters survived. Not only that, the heavenly sword and the other ancient sages also found a group of sleeping heavenly court divine army in some small worlds. At this moment, these ancient military martial artists all gathered in the new heavenly court. The prosperity of the new heavenly court had arrived. Sage, venerable sovereign, true God, experts were as common as clouds. there were many heavenly kings among the various factions of the three realms. However, there were far fewer experts at other stages than the heavenly courts. At that moment, Hong Yu sat high up in the throne room. Below him, 11 sages stood on either side of him. The civil and the military ruled separately. At this moment, the governor looked excited. The emperor had returned. Yes, Hong Yu was their emperor, the emperor who had ruled the three realms for 3,000 years. Back then, the earthly emperor god dynasty ruled the three realms and was invincible. Who dared to disobey them? However, 3,000 years ago, experts from all sides attacked and finally destroyed the powerful earthly emperor god dynasty. From then on, all the experts of the earthly emperor god dynasty wanted to restore the immortal court. The governor, Qing Mo, and the others had been wandering the three realms for many years. A few days ago, they had received Hong Yu's message and met him once. They had already confirmed his identity. At this moment, they saw Hong Yu sitting high up on the throne. The governor looked excited. Clad in armor and helmet, he held a golden crown in both hands as he walked up to the platform step by step. He half knelt on the ground and shouted, "Your Majesty, the heavenly court has been rebuilt and the three realms are revered. We are willing to die for you. We are willing to die for you." At that moment, many sages walked down from their thrones and half knelt on the ground, their faces filled with excitement. 3,000 years ago, the earthly emperor god dynasty was about to completely unify the three realms. At that time, they were at the peak of the immortal court realm. Everyone thought that the three realms would become one in the next moment. However, on that day, experts attacked and destroyed all hope. At the periphery, some of the immortal court army's experts also knelt on the ground. The sound of armor colliding was especially clear as they roared, "We are willing to fight the three realms again, for the emperor." Again and again and again and again. Whether they were the earthly emperor's clone or Hong Yu, they only remembered how glorious the earthly emperor god dynasty was in that era and how much the emperor loved his people. Those 3,000 years were the most peaceful era in the three realms. In those 3,000 years, countless commoners rose to power. In those 3,000 years, the emperor racked his brains, defeated enemies everywhere, suppressed chaos, and returned peace to the three realms. The earthly emperor god dynasty's 3,000 years were the most peaceful era in the past 8,000 years. However, at the peak of the Golden Age, when the earthly emperor god dynasty was unified, the earthly emperor became the demon emperor. The demon emperor died in battle, the immortal court realm collapsed, and the divine land sank. This was the regret of countless people. In the heavenly palace, the governor held the crown in his hand and looked at Hong Yu expectantly. "Your Majesty." The governor's tone was passionate. "Whether the emperor is the earthly emperor or the demon emperor, he is my master. 3,000 years ago, if the immortal court was unified, the three realms would have become one. There would be no more chaos, no more wandering, no more killing. 3,000 years ago, they besieged the immortal court and the emperor for their own selfishness. We were no match for them, and we were unwilling to accept it." The governor was indignant and furious, unwilling to accept it. That era of prosperity was even more popular than the era of the ancient heavenly court. However, those heavenly kings, sages, and venerable emperors, they destroyed everything for their own selfishness. Countless immortal court experts died in battle. Countless immortal court martial artists' blood stained the rivers. The heavens fell, the earth cracked, and the continents sank. The emperor died in battle in the immortal court, and the Golden Age came to an end. Today, they were going to rebuild the Golden Age. Hong Yu looked at the people below and fell silent for a while. Then he stood up pressed his hands together, and said softly, whether it's the earthly emperor god dynasty or the demon emperor god dynasty, they are all gone. Today, the three realms are no longer the three realms of the past, and I am no longer the demon emperor. Demon emperor. This time, Hong Yu did not call himself Jiu Dao or deny that he was the demon emperor and not the earthly emperor. Yes, the demon emperor. He was either the earthly emperor's clone, Jiu Dao, or the demon emperor. He was the only person in the three realms in 8,000 years who dared to call himself emperor. After the 9 emperors were destroyed, no one dared to call themselves emperor anymore. The people below became even more excited. The demon emperor had returned. The emperor who had suppressed the world 3,000 years ago had returned. Hong Yu smiled, and his voice was still soft. There's no need to recall the past, and there's still hope for the future. Now, I'm back. Everything will start anew. We'll take back everything that's owed to us. He would take back the glory that belonged to him, the glory of the godly dynasty, and take revenge for the blood feud. Millions of Immortal Court soldiers had been destroyed, hundreds and thousands of true God experts had died in battle, and tens of billions of Immortal Court citizens had perished. They had all died in that heavenly change along with that continent. He had also died in battle in the Immortal Court. The heavenly kings who had attacked back then had only managed to kill King Li. But how many heavenly kings had attacked that year? Too many. Someone had not attacked, but they had been suppressing him in secret, including King Subduing and King Kuan. Although they had not attacked or suppressed him, they had been loitering outside the Immortal Court, threatening him. King Zhen, King Sun, King Li, King Qian, many heavenly kings had been suppressing him. At that time, Heavens Beyond and Outer Sea Immortal Islands were the main forces. King Sun was the supporter behind Outer Sea Immortal Islands, and King Li was the supporter behind Heavens Beyond. It was also at that time that the powerful Heavens Beyond was destroyed by the godly dynasty and lost its former glory. Otherwise, there would not have been the rise of other domains. As Hong Yu spoke, he looked outside the heavenly palace and said with a chuckle, "Brotherly, are you willing to help me?" Everyone looked back. The next moment, a figure flew over from outside the heavenly palace. Li Zhu looked at Hong Yu with a smile. Below, the Right Divine General and the others were a little excited. Their king had returned. Their king, who led the Heavenly Plants Court, had returned. Li Zhu had a foundation in the catacombs. More than a dozen true God experts followed his orders. Even a demon plant expert like Tian Yu obeyed him. At this moment, these experts were half happy and half worried. They were happy that Li Zhu had returned. Everyone had a pillar of support, but they were worried that Hong Yu, the founder of the godly dynasty, would be able to accommodate Li Zhu. Li Zhu flew over and walked to the outside of the Great Hall. He landed slowly and continued walking forward. He said with a smile, "Demon Emperor, can the new Heavenly Court win?" "Yes," Hong Yu said firmly. "Everything is possible. You and I have come this far, so you should know that everything is possible. The old order has collapsed, and a new order will inevitably emerge. Everything is possible for anyone who can restore the world and restore order. The human race has Heaven Subduing King, King Wu, and Human King. The new Heavenly Court has me, you, and a group of like-minded people. If we don't try, how can we know if we can win?" Hong Yu walked down the high platform and casually smashed the crown in the governor's hand. He said with a smile, "Why do you and I need these external objects to prove anything? Brotherly, I know you. You have been in charge of the Heavenly Plants Court for 100 years, and the people are at peace. Even King Wu and the others are suppressed by you. Internally, powerhouses appear frequently. Externally, the enemies retreat. Brotherly, you should know that 30,000 years ago, the 9 emperors rose at the same time. The three realms were established, and the world was united. Now, if we fight for the throne, how would we know that there is only one person? Hangyu walked up to Li Zhu. At this moment, everyone was looking at them. They were very similar. The same calm, the same perpetual smile, the same sunshine, the same elegance. Hangyu, who rose 6,000 years ago, and Li Zhu, who rose 2,000 years ago, both rose from the catacombs. Li Zhu looked at him and said with a smile, "You should know that I have a lot of troubles." After suppressing the Palm Seal envoy with the weapon master's personality, he might cause trouble for me. You, on the other hand, have a chance of winning him over. Since we are like-minded, we won't care about these things. Some things might not be troublesome if we talk it out. Hangyu said softly, "The Palm Seal envoy and I have interacted in the past. You and he are both at fault, but you are not the only one at fault. Palm Seal envoy, I know that you can hear everything I say. Now, the strongest of the Broken Eight Realms have appeared. The new order is about to be established. Rather than fighting for a moment of pride, why not fight for a lifetime of light?" At that moment, a silhouette emerged. Next to Li Zhu was an elegant old man with a cold face. He said blandly, "Hangyu, what right do you have to say that?" Behind him, Sky Sword and the others recognized him. The Palm Seal envoy. He really did not die. Sky Sword's expression stiffened. He was the current Palm Seal envoy, but this was an ancient Palm Seal envoy. Hangyu laughed. Even Fong Ping and the others dare to fight. Why can't we? Have we lived for tens of thousands of years in vain? The Palm Seal envoy was unmoved. He continued, "With the appearance of the Broken Eight Realms, can you fight against the suppressing Heavenly King? Fight against King Kun? Fight against the suppressing sea? Fight against?" Hangyu said softly, "The Broken Eight Realms are the Broken Eight Realms. 3,000 years ago, I paid the price with my life. My origin went silent, and I roamed the great path. 3,000 years later, I broke through the Broken Eight Realms. Why can't I fight against you?" As soon as he said this, some people were confused. Some did not understand, but the Palm Seal envoy's expression changed. "You've been roaming the great path for the past 3,000 years. That's right." Hangyu laughed. 3,000 years ago, they were afraid that I would break through the Broken Eight Realms, so they surrounded me to kill me. They did not know that life and death are on the line. Death is not necessarily a disaster. For 3,000 years, my origin went into hiding and broke through the Broken Eight Realms. Now that I've lived another life, I shall defeat all enemies in the world. You're not the only one who can break through the Broken Eight Realms. You and I both have hope, don't we?" Li Zhu suddenly spoke. He laughed. "Master, we've been separated for so many years, but we're still one. Didn't the Broken Eight Realms appear in the world? We've both seen it. We're just one step away." The Palm Seal envoy said coldly, "How can it be so easy to break through the Broken Eight Realms? In the past, the 9 emperors used their supreme power to roam the origin and search for the source. They borrowed the power of heaven and earth to forge the Sanjiao Gate. It may seem like a step, but it's a world of difference. One must break through the limits of the origin and comprehend one's own Tao. Only then can one walk on this supreme path." Li Zhu laughed. "If we don't dare to, if we can't, what's the point of fighting? Master, of the 3 messengers, no, of the 4 messengers, you're the only one who thought too much and couldn't break through the Broken Eight Realms, right?" The Palm Seal envoy frowned. Li Zhu continued, "The God-forging envoy has broken through the Sanjiao Gate. As for how many gates, I don't know." Hangyu laughed. "The weapon mastery envoy broke through the Qi and Blood Gate, proving the Tao to be the strongest. Hong Kun broke through the Energy Gate, proving the Tao to be the strongest." Li Jun broke through the Qi and Blood Gate, proving the Tao to be the strongest. The God-forging envoy should have broken through the spiritual knowledge gate, proving the Tao to be the strongest. Zhenhai broke through the life gate, proving the Tao to be the strongest. They can do it. You and I can do it too. The Palm Seal envoy looked at him and said, "What about you?" "I broke through the spiritual knowledge gate." Hongyu laughed. The next moment, the Palm Seal envoy's expression changed. He looked at him and said, "Clone." He broke through the spiritual knowledge gate. His spiritual energy was extremely powerful. At this moment, he seemed to have realized something. This was a clone, a powerful clone. Hongyu did not reply. He laughed. "Palm Seal, what do you think? Do I have a choice?" The Palm Seal envoy looked at Li Zhu, then at Hongyu. He sneered. "I don't have a choice, do I? If I don't agree today, you and that traitor Li Zhu will suppress me completely and even refine me, right?" Hongyu said softly, "The past, the present, the future. The past is not important. The present and the future are what you and I need to care about." The Palm Seal envoy said, "Perhaps you are right, but I have been suppressed for many years and my origin is damaged." At this, Li Zhu laughed and shook his head. A small cauldron appeared in his hand. He laughed. "Master wants to use the Thousand Worlds cauldron as a foundation to forge a golden body and origin. Just give it back to Master. It's just an external object. Li Zhu does not need it." The Thousand Worlds cauldron. The Palm Seal envoy looked at him, speechless for a long time. Of the three messengers' weapons, the Thousand Worlds cauldron should be the strongest. No, it might be the most useful. It could stabilize the origin, speed up the creation of the great Tao, and absorb the qi of the origin. Any powerful cultivator would not care about such a weapon. The Thousand Worlds cauldron was no weaker than a divine artifact. In fact, it was the closest to a divine artifact because it could suppress the origin. But now Li Zhu did not care and wanted to give it back to him. The Palm Seal envoy glanced at him, then at Hongyu. After a long time, he laughed. "Interesting. Perhaps the two of you should become brothers." Li Zhu smiled, and so did Hongyu. "Perhaps. Bloodlines are not the only thing. If we are like-minded, then we are brothers." The Palm Seal envoy was silent for a while, then suddenly disappeared. His voice remained. "I will settle the score with this traitorous disciple in the future. The situation is coming. I need to restore my true form." Li Zhu laughed. Hongyu laughed too. At this moment, the Thousand Worlds cauldron in Li Zhu's hand trembled. Li Zhu laughed, then his face paled. The next moment, he cut off his connection with the Thousand Worlds cauldron. The Thousand Worlds cauldron broke through the void and disappeared without a trace. Hongyu laughed again. He stretched out his arm and looked at Li Zhu. Li Zhu did not hesitate. He extended his hand, and the two walked up to the throne, hand in hand. When the others saw this, some were excited, some were emotional, and some sighed inwardly. Li Zhu and Hongyu had joined hands. They did not need to prove their strength. They were strong. On this day, the news spread everywhere. Li Zhu and Hongyu had joined hands and descended to the heavenly court, becoming the second ruler of the heavenly court. Not only them, but Li Zhu's master, one of the three envoys, also resolved his grudge with Li Zhu and chose the new heavenly court. 3 kings. Li Zhu and the Palm Seal had broken 7. Hongyu was suspected to have broken 8. There were also Qianji, Tianming, and the governor. They also had hopes of becoming heavenly kings. Perhaps they would succeed soon and restore the glory of the heavenly court. The other sages also began to focus on cultivation, recovering their former strength. Some of these sages might become heavenly kings. This time, the new heavenly court had completely gained a foothold. Even if the Sea Seal envoys and the others were unhappy, they could not do anything. Powerful. The few heavenly kings were powerhouses among heavenly kings. There were also many sages and nearly 100 true gods. These true gods included Li Zhu's subordinates, powerhouses from the catacombs, powerhouses brought by the two kings from the king battlefield, and some old subordinates. The combination of these forces had once again become the strongest force in the three realms. Even if the human race had heavenly kings, they might not have the upper hand. On the human side, there were many heavenly kings, but the difference between the saint level and the emperor level was too great. There were new movements on the side of the new heavenly court. The weapon master had disappeared without a trace. No one knew where he was hiding. No one knew if he would go to the new heavenly court and join forces with Hongyu and the others. King Kuan and the others also moved at this moment. The headquarters of the divine sect had been destroyed, but the powerhouses were not all dead. In the end, King Kuan still brought out Protector Shui, the heavenly cloud island lord, and more than 10 true god powerhouses from the fake heavenly grave. Saint Tianbai, the earth protector, was still alive, just as the powerhouses of the new heavenly court joined forces. On a huge island overseas, the divine sect was re-established. On this day, King Kuan welcomed King Qian and King General among the 8 kings. 3 of them chose to join forces this time. At the same time, he was also one of the strongest. King Kuan, who had broken 8, King Qian, who had broken 7, and King Zhen, who had broken 6. The divine sect was re-established and occupied an island. At this time, the 3 kings also issued a recruitment order. The powerhouses of the overseas immortal islands, the outer heavens, and the land of boundaries could all go to the divine sect. The human race, the heavenly court, and the divine sect. The Chuwu lineage occupied the deep sea. As for the sea guardian, moon spirit, heaven's pole, sky chief, Luan, and weapon master, some of these powerhouses hid in the dark and some dominated a region. The situation of the past was recreated. The sages chose their own factions. Yuan Gang, who had disappeared from the human sovereign lineage for many days, appeared overseas again. He went to the divine sect with another sage of the human sovereign lineage and chose to join the divine sect. Cosmic Dragon of the Dragon Island hesitated for many days. In the end, he brought the powerhouses of the Dragon Island to the Sea Suppression Prefecture. The Beast Sovereign lineage chose the Sea Guardian. Although the Sea Guardian fought with the Beast Sovereign in the past, the Sea Guardian was one of the pillars of the demon race. At this moment, everyone was in chaos, but Cosmic Dragon still did not choose the human race. The human race seemed strong, but there were internal and external problems. The internal problems came from the powerhouses' origins. They were too complicated. Heavenly King, subduing King, Lindsay, dragon transformation. These powerhouses were not without a faction. The sage of the West Emperor lineage found Heaven's Pole. Heaven's Pole brought the sage and the powerhouses of the 7 luminaries Mai Heaven, including the 7 luminaries Emperor, and disappeared from the 3 realms. Someone saw them in the deep sea. Some guessed that Heaven's Pole brought them to the West Emperor Dojo ruins. Heaven's Pole should have been cultivating in seclusion there. Moon spirit sealed Wangu Mountain. Even Sage Yue and the others did not appear in the 3 realms. Sky Chief brought the 4 sages. They seemed to be searching for the space battlefield, small worlds, and their former companions. The other 36 sages and the Heavenly Court's divine army clearly had no intention of joining other forces. Wan was also on the move. He was looking for his old friends, the 72 Paths of Bandits. He, who was alone, felt threatened from all sides. The powerhouses were all on the move. The powerhouses of the Extreme Path lineage, the East Emperor lineage, and the Divine Emperor lineage were also in contact. They watched each other, waiting for the return of the Emperor lineage and their comrades. The Three Realms was eerily quiet. The war no longer broke out. At this time, Fang Ping was also cultivating in seclusion. He was stabilizing his realm, expanding his source world, and preparing for the system upgrade. This time, he seized the sacred martial god's weapon. He seized the weapons of a few sages, including their storage rings. If it were not for the fact that he had obtained the sage order and the heavenly king seal, he dared not level up there. The system would have been upgraded long ago. At this moment, there was no war in the Three Realms. It was also a rare opportunity for Fang Ping. Taking advantage of this time, Fang Ping began to upgrade the system. And this time, Fang Ping had a vague feeling that it might be the last time. His combat strength had already reached the heavenly king level. If he advanced further, it would be the imperial path. The system might not be able to affect the imperial path much. Chapter 1232. Fang Ping was in closed-door cultivation. Zhang Tao was dealing with Earth's affairs. In Suppressing Star City, it was a scene of white mourning. Many old ancestors had died in battle in the outer world, causing these carefree Suppressing Star City martial artists to feel helpless, despair, and sorrow for the first time. Cries of grief could be heard from time to time in the city, but they were quickly suppressed by the leaders of the various families. In the Hall of Myriad Origins, Heavenly King Zhen, who had announced that he was in closed-door cultivation, was currently walking in the Hall of Myriad Origins with his hands behind his back, followed by the God Creation Envoy Avatar, Jiang Hao, War King, Thunder King, and the others. Hundreds of years ago, I brought back the Hall of Myriad Origins. At that time, the Hall of Myriad Origins was in the Emperor's tomb. Just as he said that, Heavenly King Zhen waved his hand and shattered a small button-like object in the corner of the hall. Outside, Jiang Chao rubbed his ears and muttered, "Another secret from me? What's wrong with listening? What's wrong with that?" The Li family's old ancestor really didn't give him any face. Heavenly King Zhen waved his hand, and the door of the Hall of Myriad Origins closed. After closing the door, Heavenly King Zhen smiled and said, "Some things are in the past. It's fine as long as we know. There's no need for those juniors to know." When I brought it back to the Hall of Myriad Origins, I knew that unquestionable sword was inside. War King interrupted impatiently. "I'm not interested in these things. I just want to ask a few questions. First, did you know that unquestionable sword came to Suppressing Star City back then? Or did you deliberately let it happen?" "Yes." Heavenly King Zhen nodded and said, "Of course I know, because I reached an agreement with Unquestionable Sword. Back then, there were almost no powerhouses on Earth. Other than me, there was almost no one at the peak. Therefore, Unquestionable Sword, and I reached an agreement. I was outside, and he was inside. Sometimes I might leave Earth, and his physical body would be responsible for guarding Earth. If there were powerhouses attacking, he would help. If not for his existence, some things wouldn't have been so simple in the past 1,000 years." War King continued, "You'll agree to let him be the human king?" When he said this, he glanced at Jiang Hao, who was silent. Heavenly King Zhen smiled and said, "No, I just said that I wouldn't stop him. It all depends on his own ability. Obviously, he didn't do it back then, according to our judgment. There would still be a few years before the passageway fully opened. At that time, a few years later, it would be. He didn't say how they were different, but everyone knew. A few years later, if the Unquestionable Sword did not die, Jiang Hao would be able to fuse with it. At that time, Jiang Hao might become an expert, who had broken eight. Breaking eight. Human. If this was not a sovereign personage, then who could be a sovereign personage? However, it was obvious that the plan had failed. Fong Ping's existence interfered with many things. Unquestionable Sword's final decision to walk toward death had a lot to do with this. The War King said again, "You're all scheming against the human race. Did you already know something? Also, you're so powerful, but you didn't participate in the battle of the Heavenly Court back then? What was going on with the 9 sovereigns and 4 emperors? Of the 4 reincarnations, only 3 had shown up. What was going on with Emperor of Heaven Reverse? What was the final goal of the Immortal Source Project? How many of the 9 sovereigns and 4 emperors were still alive? Where were they now? What is their purpose? When will they appear? Are they hostile or friendly to humans?" The War King asked a bunch of questions in one go. There were some questions that he had been holding back for a long time. Today, while the Forging God envoy and Sky Subduing King were both here, he wanted to ask for an explanation. Before the War King could finish, he asked again, "What strength do you have? Where is the God Crafting Envoy? Are you helping humans, or do you have other motives? What's going on with Li Jun?" At the end, he said gloomily, "Jiang Hao, this kid, what's going on now?" Sky Subduing King smiled. "Don't worry, I will naturally say what needs to be said. Who asked you to be my son?" The War King's face was pitch black. "Son your ass. Who is your son? Shameless old thing." The God-crafting envoy chuckled and teased, "You're an old widower. Where did your son come from?" As soon as these words came out, the War King was stunned. Sky Subduing King laughed. "Don't look at me like that. The Li family is indeed my Li family's bloodline. It's just the bloodline of King Jun, which is also my younger brother's bloodline inheritance. As for me, people like us, our hearts are in the great Tao, and we usually won't be moved. Back then, there were only a few descendants of the 9 sovereigns and 4 emperors, but there were also bloodline inheritances, which were usually bloodline inheritances of the same race." At this point, Sky Subduing King walked into the depths of the Hall of 10,000 Origins. As he walked, he said, "Li Chun, maybe you heard what the others said and thought that he was the reincarnation of King Jun, which is also my younger brother." Sky Subduing King sighed softly. "That day, during the battle of the Heavenly Court, my silly little brother, he was too deeply involved. Before the great battle, he had just broken through the 7th level of strength, yet he insisted on participating. In the end, he was personally killed on the spot." "What?" The War King was stunned. "Sky Extermination Emperor," Sky Subduing King said calmly, "it's very normal. Do you think that just because the Sky Extermination Emperor reincarnated in the human race, he is a good friend of this old man? Back then, the relationship between the 9 sovereigns and 4 emperors was very complicated. Some of the beginners who participated in the battle were also taught by the 9 sovereigns and 4 emperors. In the end, those who should be killed still had to be killed. My younger brother was too deeply involved. He was the only one among the 8 kings who fought to the end. In the end, he fought with his life on the line. When I arrived, his origin had already been extinguished and his golden body had shattered. I took back his body, but I couldn't save his life. In the end, I buried his physical body, afraid that someone would steal his golden body and strip away his golden body's power. Li Jun, that kid, had obtained some of his golden body's power, as well as some origin inheritance and martial arts inheritance. If it was really King Jun's reincarnation, I wouldn't have arranged for him to reincarnate like this. Otherwise, it would be so awkward to call my descendants father and ancestor. This old man also doesn't want to have a few ancestors above me. He and King Jun were biological brothers. If King Jun really reincarnated, Commander Li's parents would be his parents, although it was not the same concept. Sky Subduing King chuckled and said, My younger brother died in battle 8,000 years ago. However, he shouldn't have any objections to some of his power being passed down to his descendants. Li Jun is indeed a modern person and not a reincarnation of an ancient person, so there's no need to think about that. The War King said regretfully, "No, what a pity. I also said that if he was King Jun, he would be your younger brother. This kid often calls me old ancestor. Shouldn't you also?" Bang! With a muffled sound, the War King trembled violently. He trembled and trembled for a long time without stopping. Sky-subduing King casually retracted his palm, not giving him a chance to finish speaking. The God Creation envoy glanced at the War King. This little fatty's ability to court death was not weak. But then again, Li Jun's personality had changed a little over the years. He was no longer as arrogant as he was back then. Otherwise, it would not be such a good thing. Sky-subduing King ignored them and continued. "Li Jun is Li Jun. This matter is over. There's no need to mention it again. Only 3 of the 4 emperors have reincarnated. That's because Dodo didn't die. Not dead. Then the other 3 extreme Tao heavenly emperors are dead?" The War King hurriedly asked. "Sort of." Sky-subduing King sighed. "At their level, it's actually very difficult to die. The incomparably powerful, them could even be said to be immortal and indestructible, but if their injuries were too severe, they would also die. Nirvana was not the same as death. However, after the nirvana, it was unknown when he would recover again. The other 3 Sky Emperors were all dead, which was why they had reincarnated. As for Do, he did not die, so naturally he would not have reincarnated." The War King frowned, and the God Creation envoy asked curiously, "Weren't Do's injuries serious back then? Did you see that guy later on?" With that, the God Creation envoy continued, "That old thing did not die. Actually, I am not surprised." "Who is he?" "It's not surprising that he didn't die." The War King looked at him doubtfully. The God Creation envoy laughed and said, "Speaking of fighting, that guy's qualifications are not ordinary old. More than 30,000 years ago, the beginning of the martial arts. You have to know that the beginning of the martial arts is also different. Not everyone would be a martial artist the moment they came, and they would be strong. There was always a first come, first served. In the early stages of the martial arts, it was hard to say who was the first one to create the martial arts. It was hard to say who the second one was. In short, Do should be ranked in the top 10. The War King was surprised. Top 10? You mean Heaven Emperor Reverse is the oldest batch of beginner martial artists? That's right. The God Creation envoy laughed. That guy's qualifications are frighteningly old. Do you know why he is the extreme Tao Heavenly Emperor and not the Emperor? Because he did not walk the path of origin at all. Do you understand? Do that guy actually did not walk the path of origin. In the later stages, he was exploring a new path himself, wanting to walk the path of the beginner martial emperor. At this point, he paused and said, "The one who created the origin, in fact, could also be considered to have walked the path of the beginner martial emperor. There are 2 situations in becoming an emperor. One is the kind that creates the origin, from the mastery of one Tao to the mastery of the second Tao. In the end, they fuse and become an emperor. The second is the same as the 9 emperors. They walk one Tao, the origin Tao, and in the end, they become emperors. And Do, if he wants to be the first, he also wants to walk the origin. However, the origin is created by someone else, and it is extremely difficult for him to walk it. The founders of the beginner martial arts all have their own Tao. When they reach a certain level of strength, it is almost impossible to walk the origin." Hearing that, the War King frowned and said, "According to what you said, the beginner martial path won't work. Then the other extreme path, Heavenly Emperors," the God Creation envoy laughed. Stupid, beginner martial is also divided into the first and second generations. Understand? The first generation beginner martial artist, self-created path, walked to the end of the path. Of course, there was no way to change anything. For the second generation beginner martial artist, one situation was to switch to the origin at rank 8 realm. The other was to cultivate the origin at the same time. Of course, the rejection was very big, the stronger the rejection, but there were always some heaven-defying fellows who succeeded in the end. But then again, at that time, the origin had already gained the upper hand. The so-called simultaneous cultivation was only the cultivation of the origin. For example, Fang Ping, his golden body is not weak. Didn't he also cultivate the origin? The War King understood. So, in the end, the outcome of the same cultivation is actually that the origin has the upper hand and becomes an origin martial artist. That's right. The God creation envoy nodded and said, those who cultivate the origin are actually origin martial artists. No matter how strong your golden body is, how strong your mentality is, in the end, the origin is still the main, because the strength of the origin is faster, more, and stronger than other aspects. The subduing heavenly king interrupted. Let's not talk about this. It's useless to say it. Let's continue talking about the heavenly emperor. The heavenly emperor is the ancient beginner martial artist leader, very old. Speaking of which, he is a figure of the same era as my master and the one who created the origin. The sky arm that I sent flying earlier was also a beginner martial artist, but there is a gap in the beginner martial artist. He is considered a beginner martial artist in the late stage. Many beginner martial artists in the early stage can't go on. Some are only rank 3, rank 5, rank 6. Most of them died of old age, cultivated in the wrong direction, and self-destructed. There are also some who died in the battle. Let's put it this way. Some of these people just cultivate randomly, forcefully absorbing a little energy, then they treat themselves as a beginner martial artist. So the strength gap at that time is very big. In the end, only a few people can continue to walk. Those beginner martial artists who came later were more or less affected, knowing the cultivation methods of these beginner martial artists, avoiding some of the drawbacks, which is why there is the prosperity of the beginner martial artists in the future. The heavenly emperor is that old. Warlord had just finished his words when he asked, "Since when do you have a master?" "Your grandmaster." Before King Jin could finish, Warlord rolled his eyes. "Your grandmaster?" "That is not my grandmaster." King Jin did not look at him. He smiled. "Your father? I am not born to know everything. How can I not have a master? Your grandmaster was a pioneer of that era. Those people were not stingy with their martial arts. I have been learning from your grandmaster for over 10,000 years. 10,000 years, and you still haven't reached the sovereign realm." King Jin stared at Warlord for a long time, unfriendly. Warlord curled his lips. "I am being serious. When the 9 sovereigns and 4 emperors were proven, you should have been learning. Why didn't you reach the sovereign realm? According to what you said, second-generation beginners can learn the origin. Didn't you learn it? If so, you are not a good-for-nothing. Why didn't you become the sovereign of origin?" King Jin said with disdain, "I didn't want to. There were many people who were unwilling back then. Do you think everyone wants to become the sovereign of origin?" The God creation envoy said faintly, "Back then, before the 9 emperors reached the Tao, it had not been proven that the origin was stronger. Some people had bad eyesight and felt that the Tao of origin was not good enough. Of course, they disdained to learn the Tao of origin. It was too late. The general trend has passed, and you still want to prove the Tao of origin? Dream on." King Jun's expression was unfriendly. The God creation envoy said, lazily, "I am talking about you people. You, Feng, Jinhai, didn't you guys all walk the origin later? In the beginning, Who would have thought that the origin could prove the Tao and become a sovereign? They all thought that the guy who created the origin had walked this path to the extreme, and that no one else could walk it. Who would have thought that it was not? The God creation envoy also shook his head and said, "This old man did not expect this to happen back then, so I am a little regretful. If I had walked the origin earlier, maybe I would have become an emperor too." King Jin sneered. Jiang Hao could not help but say, "You were only at the emperor realm back then. Back then, the God creation envoy was very weak. Where did he get the confidence to become an emperor?" The God creation envoy said snappily, "An idiot is an idiot." The so-called emperor stage back then was because this old man had never walked the path of origin. Do you understand beginner martial arts? Back then, this old man also disdained to walk the path of origin. After the 9 emperors confirmed the Tao, no one else confirmed the Tao, and this old man was too lazy to walk anymore. Therefore, back then, it was an emperor stage physical body, not that its strength was only at the emperor stage. After that, the heaven realm was gone. This old man was idle, so I walked around the origin to play. Isn't this, after a few thousand years, I can easily break through? These words were actually a slap in the face to some people. Just play around, just walk around. And then he broke through 8. It was only 8,000 years. Yes, that was all. Among the powerhouses who had broken through the 8, who had only walked the origin for 8,000 years. No, he was the only one. Of course, the God creation envoy had the capital to be proud. King Zhentian said, "It took a few thousand years to reach this stage. Is that amazing?" Zhang Tao is about to break through 7. Fang Ping, maybe he will break through 8 tomorrow. What are you so proud of? The God creation envoy said disapprovingly, "This old man will only compete with you guys. You're not as strong as me. You have to be stronger than me before you say that. Sooner or later." The God creation envoy did not think much of it and quickly said, "It's useless to tell me about these ancient matters. Let Zhang Tao and Fang Ping make a trip here as soon as possible and undo the seal on me. Otherwise, this old man will fly into a rage and leave by himself. Why don't you try?" King Zhentian snorted and said, "Do you really think you're a big shot? If it wasn't for you back then, there wouldn't have been so many messy things later on. You've committed too many sins. Reflect on yourself. It's only been 8,000 years. I'm being polite to you if I didn't behead you." The God creation envoy could not help but scold. "Does it have anything to do with me? I'm just a blacksmith." At that time, the 9 emperors came to my door and said that they were forging a divine weapon. I could choose any good thing. Didn't I want to forge a divine weapon that would be passed down through the ages? That thing was too tempting. How would I know what they were going to do? I am a God creation envoy used by the heavenly court. According to the current words, I am a scientific research expert used by the military department, specializing in the development of high-tech cutting-edge weapons. The 9 bosses of the country are all here. If you want to develop a weapon and use the funds as you please, can you not do it? Do you really think that I was willing to be suppressed by you for 8,000 years? It's just that I can't beat you. Otherwise, I would have killed you a long time ago." The God creation envoy said angrily, "If it wasn't for you, I might have already become a martial emperor. Back then, I had no choice but to walk the path of origin. You old thing, you have suppressed me for 8,000 years. Sooner or later, I will settle the score with you." Hearing this, the war king interrupted, "The grudge between the two of you, go and settle it yourself." Continuing the topic from before, if the Heaven Reverse Emperor is not dead, then what about now? Now, King Zhentian rubbed his chin, pointed to the sky, and said, "I'm not sure. It might be at the immortal origin. If it's not at the immortal origin, Then, I don't know. The God creation envoy continued. It's hard to say. If the 9 emperors are not dead, they might be over there, waiting for an opportunity. If he doesn't die, then I'm not sure. I suspect that this old fellow is still secretly plotting many things. Tell me, could he have found a way to walk the origin, and actually walked the origin, and now he has become a double yolk egg? Do is a beginner martial artist, unable to walk the source. Don't say, there's a high chance that the Sanjiao Gate has a physical body. I didn't create this, so I'm not too sure. However, when the 9 emperors sealed their paths, they might have created this thing themselves. If you say so, then it makes sense. There are a few fellows who might really be suppressing the backlash of the great Tao at the end of the origin Tao. It's indeed easier to walk the origin Tao now than it was back then. The War King was confused. Why do you want to suppress it? Is it good for them? King Zhentian said, casually, reduce the experimental time and catalyze it. What's so surprising about that? The War King frowned and said, then you guys are also their lab rats? Who knows? King Zhentian chuckled and said, don't mind it too much. A lab rat is a lab rat. What's the big deal? Beginners are all lab rats. Everyone is using themselves as experimental subjects. The martial Tao is like this. It's actually not a big deal. When the 9 emperors walked the origin Tao, they were also using themselves as lab rats. Don't mind it too much. Then, when will they return? King Zhentian pondered for a moment and said, depends on the situation. See if anyone has truly reached the end of the origin Tao, or if there is a huge change in the 3 realms, or if something that threatens them happens. Then what does Zhang Tao mean when he said that there are traitors among the emperors? That's what I meant. King Zhentian smiled and said, the 9 emperors did not want to destroy the world in the beginning. You understand? The original intention of creating the immortal origin Tao was not to destroy the human world or the land realm. Later, there was a problem with the immortal origin Tao, which led to the current situation. Among the 9 emperors, there were some who betrayed their original intentions. They wanted to walk a different path, do different things, and become a different emperor. That's why there are traitors. This should be related to the flaw in the Emperor Tao that Zhang Tao mentioned. I'm not too sure about this. After all, I haven't become an emperor yet. Who is the traitor? The War King asked again. King Zhentian said impatiently, then who should I ask? I'm not the 9 emperors' father. Who knows what they're thinking? The War King was stunned. You sure have guts. At the side, the God creation envoy put away a piece of crystal and kept it in his storage ring without batting an eyelid. King Zhentian said indifferently, play it to the 9 emperors? Do you think I'm afraid of them? Besides, I'm not their father in the first place. Do I have to say that I'm their father? The God creation envoy put away another piece of crystal and said with a smile, I'll record this down. It might be beneficial. King Zhentian sneered and felt even more disdain in his heart. Was there any use in recording the voice? What realm was he in? Why did he care about the sound? Who is sure that I said it? Chapter 1233. Inside the Hall of Myriad Origins. Sky King Zhen Wang ignored the God creation envoy and continued, the 9 emperors and 4 emperors, the great war that broke out back, then should have something to do with the beginner martial artists. Of course, I'm not talking about those old bastards trapped in the heavenly tomb. Those old things can only be considered lab rats. The War King played along and asked, could it be related to you? Get lost. Sky King Zhen Wang snorted, and the God creation envoy said, he doesn't have the qualifications. Don't beat around the bush. I can roughly guess who it is related to. First, fight. Second, the old ghost who created the origin. Third, those who have just entered the martial arts realm and have a chance of entering the Emperor path. Heavenly King Jin nodded and said, "That's right. The battle of the great Tao back then was actually still ongoing, and the victor had yet to be determined. The battle between the original source Tao and the beginner martial Tao isn't over yet. After all, as I said, strictly speaking, the one who created the original source is the beginner martial emperor." The war king was confused. "What do you mean?" "Exactly what I said." Heavenly King subduing said indifferently, "The 9 sovereigns are the origin sovereigns, not that one. You understand?" "I don't understand. Why are you so King stupid?" The subduing Heavenly King cursed, "The 9 emperors represent the source. That person created the source, but that doesn't mean it's the source. Don't you understand? That person only created the origin, used it to prove his Tao, to prove his initial martial Tao. As for the 9 emperors, they are the true representatives of the elemental Tao." Heavenly King, subduing, Heavenly King didn't understand. After a while, he gritted his teeth and said, "Let's put it this way. The 9 emperors are the sons of the Tao of origin, and the Tao of origin is their mother. The person who had created the path of origin was actually the 9 emperors' father. However, after he had finished using the path of origin, he had immediately thrown it away. Therefore, the person who created it cannot represent the origin Tao. The bloodline of the origin Tao belongs to the 9 emperors." The war monarch nodded. He finally understood. "Are you saying that there's a high chance that the 9 emperors will go to war with that person in the end?" "The possibility is not small." Heavenly King Jin said solemnly, "I suspect so. As for the reason, it might be related to quintessence and the flaws in the imperial Tao, and all of this might be greatly related to that person from all those years ago." "What's his name?" The war king was confused. "Just tell me the name." "No name." Heavenly King, subduing, said indifferently, "Maybe there was, but the 9 emperors forbade it from being mentioned. After tens of thousands of years, I've almost forgotten about it." Jiang Hao finally opened his mouth and said in a deep voice, "It should have a name, right? Celestial Emperor?" "Heavenly Hound." The war king shouted. Heavenly King Jin frowned and said, "It's meaningless to know about these things. Back then, when the 9 emperors reached the Tao, they didn't mention these things anymore. They didn't mention this person anymore. So they were long forgotten in the long river of history. As for whether it's the Celestial Emperor or the Heavenly Tao, it has little to do with us." "Why are you so emotional?" The war king's face was filled with curiosity, as if he had caught on to something, and anxiously said, "God Creation Envoy, why is he so excited? Could it be that he's that guy's reincarnation? That's why he's upset when I say that Heavenly Hound is the Celestial Emperor?" The God-forging envoy was shocked by his imagination, and after a long while, he laughed. "It shouldn't be. This guy is so excited. It's probably related to his master. I have heard of it a few times. His master said in front of some of the older generation experts in the 3 realms that his disciple is extraordinary. Maybe he can surpass that person." In the end, his face was slapped swollen. He was very useless and couldn't prove his Tao and become an emperor. In the end, the other party casually created a path and walked out of the 9 emperors. It's normal for him to be agitated after being slapped in the face like this. The war king was shocked once again. This old man is so experienced. Before the 9 emperors attained their Tao, they were said to be able to surpass that fellow who created the origin. The God-forging envoy laughed and said, "Of course I'm old. Even if I'm not old, I'm not that strong." He is a 2nd-generation beginner martial artist, but strictly speaking, some 1st-generation beginner martial artists aren't as old as him. Some first-generation beginner martial artists haven't even created their own martial path, but this old guy has already learned martial arts from his master. I still haven't become a Run Huang. The War King's words were filled with emotion, but they were also extremely heart-wrenching. King Zhenwang's face darkened, and he said snappily, "What do you know?" At that time, my goal was to prove my Tao. Who knows? In any case, I failed to prove my Tao. I started cultivating again 20,000 years ago and started over again. You understand? What do you mean? The War King was shocked. You've reincarnated? No. King Zhenwang's face was calm as he said calmly, 20,000 years ago, I felt that the path of the first martial proof might be a little different. It might not be a good thing to walk to the end of the path. So 20,000 years ago, in order to experience the new path again, I crippled my jade bones and broke the brain nucleus that I had tempered to the extreme. I left behind a memory chip and started over. Starting from immortal, King Zhenwang said softly, "Yes, in the past tens of thousands of years. Who has this old man's courage? No. That's why this old man is the strongest and most talented in the 3 realms." At that time, my jade bone broke through to 7, and my spiritual force was a step away from a qualitative change. After the qualitative change, I would break through to 8. But I gave up. Heavenly King Zhen said proudly, "I gave up everything and started from scratch. I didn't even hesitate to die, to reopen the origin great Tao. My talent allowed me to dominate the 3 realms, and 3,000 years later, I once again confirmed the Tao as a heavenly king. 10,000 years later, I've proven my Tao to break through the 7th level, and I'm even on the path to breaking through the 8th level." The War King looked at him in disbelief. "You must be bragging, right?" It was like he was joking. The God Creation envoy smiled, but did not speak this time. At the side, the Thunder Sovereign, who had been ignored by everyone, suddenly said in a muffled voice, "That should be the case. When I knew him, it had been about 20,000 years. At that time, he had just reached the true God realm. That's why I never thought that he was Li Zhen. The Li Zhen of the past was quite famous in the 3 realms." Thunder King. The War King suddenly looked at him and said with a frown, "You met him 20,000 years ago? You're not even an overlord. True gods live for 10,000 years, but you've lived for 20,000 years. Not only that, you were probably an expert at that time. Who are you?" The Thunder King was an old acquaintance of the subduing Heavenly King, but he had always been neglected. The War King didn't think too much about it before. He thought that they had gotten to know each other afterward. But today, the Thunder King said that the subduing Heavenly King he had met 20,000 years ago was not an emperor level. So how could he have lived for 20,000 years? No matter how old the surviving true gods were, they were only around 10,000 years old. The remaining ones either became emperors or died. Ming Ting, this late-stage heaven realm true god, almost died of old age. Heavenly King Zhen Wang couldn't help but scold. "Listen to the main point. Most importantly, I gave up everything 20,000 years ago and cultivated anew. You were a heavenly king in 2 lifetimes. You almost broke through 8 in your initial martial arts, and you directly broke through 8 in your origin. You understand? That was the main point, not the Thunder King. Why are you so obedient?" The God Creation envoy snorted and laughed. "It felt great. I'll let you pretend." The War King snapped. "No matter how awesome you are, you still haven't become a Run Huang. What's the use? You didn't become a Run Huang. Even if you cultivated 100 times, you would still be trash. What's the point of saying all this?" "You don't point at me. If I were you, I wouldn't give up. Maybe I'll become an emperor. You're sick in the head. You gave up your beginner martial cultivation source, and now you're showing off. Are you sick? Heavenly King Zhen's expression changed. These words might not be without reason. Back then, if he kept walking on the initial martial path, could he become an emperor? He didn't know. You don't have the confidence to become an emperor, so you walked on the origin. Now, you're saying that you're very awesome. The War King sneered. What do you want to show off? What's there to show off? Crazy. You were cultivating well, but you suddenly gave up. You want me to admire you and worship you? In the end, I still haven't become an emperor. Boom. The War King trembled and continued to tremble. He trembled until his internal organs were about to spit out. Heavenly King Zhen retracted his fist and felt much more comfortable. His expression was ice cold as he said, "What do you know? Your father, is because I don't like becoming an emperor, and I don't like the simple Emperor Dao. I want to become an emperor, the strongest Emperor Dao." This time, the War King stopped trembling and stopped talking. He had learned his lesson after being beaten half to death twice. It was better not to provoke this madman who had yet to become an emperor. Heavenly King Zhen no longer brought up the past. His incomparably awesome past was like playing the lute to a cow. Who was he? He had given up on the beginner martial arts, walked from the mortal world again, and started walking the path of origin again. Why did he completely give up and not forcefully walk the path of origin like the others? Because he wanted to comprehend this new path bit by bit. In the end, from the mouth of the War King, it was as if he was a failure. All right, it was indeed a bit of a failure. Heavenly King Zhen cursed in his heart. Fortunately, he did not tell Fong Ping and the others. Otherwise, these bastards might be even more black-hearted than the War King. They might even mock him crazily. However, back then, if I really kept on walking, would I be able to become an emperor? Heavenly King Zhen felt helpless. He had been affected by this grandson of the War King to actually think about this. Just as he was thinking about this, the God Creation Envoy suddenly said, "Li Xuanxia, are you this little fatty's father?" The two of them looked at him. The God Creation Envoy tugged at his beard and suddenly said, "Little fatty, you can call me ancestor in the future." The War King almost killed him. What was going on? Now, he was taking advantage of me. It was one thing for old Li to call him Godfather, but this old thing actually wanted to take advantage of him. The God Creation Envoy said in a deep voice, "Don't be anxious. I seem to remember who you are. I didn't pay much attention to you before, but after looking at you for so long, let me think. Your ancestor seems to be the chef from the Cat Palace, cooking or brushing. I don't really remember." Back then, he followed Tian Chun to the Fire God continent and was killed by someone. You really look a little similar to your ancestor. Don't say that this old man took advantage of you. Back then, when your ancestor saw me, he also called me Venerable Emperor. He was extremely polite and even cooked for me for a period of time. That should be the case. In that case, you can be considered to have taken advantage of me by calling me ancestor. After all, your ancestor was just like that in front of me back then. Your ancestor is the one who brushes hair and cooks. The God Creation Envoy also threw out a punch, causing him to start trembling. This scene caused the corners of Jiang, Hao, and the others' mouths to tremble. There was no one to vent, and he was looking for the War King to vent. The God Creation Envoy said angrily, "This old man won't spout nonsense. Li Xuanxia, tell me, is his ancestor that fatty?" After saying that, he stretched out his hand and pulled the War King's face long. He punched the War King a few more times, causing his body to swell and swell. He laughed and said, "Look, isn't it very similar?" King Zhenwang's face stiffened. This kind of attack, it really looked like it. The War King seemed to have been beaten to a pulp. It was swollen and his gaze could kill. King Zhenwang snorted. So what if it looks like? Just because it looks like it doesn't mean it's that guy's descendant. It should be right. The ash cat won't casually brush its fur. This guy brushed the ash cat thousands of years ago, so it's most likely that he's that guy's descendant. This time, King Zhenwang had nothing to say. He did not recognize his son anymore, and casually said, "He's not my son. What does it have to do with me?" At this time, the War King was able to speak. He gritted his teeth and cursed. "Are you guys crazy? Did I provoke you?" After cursing for a while, he said, "What fatty?" "Your ancestor." The God creation envoy laughed. "Even if I told you, you wouldn't know. He would have been beaten to death long ago." Back then, Tianchun brought the cat army to encircle the fire god continent. Back then, the Chuwu lineage was quite tyrannical, causing rivers of blood to flow. Your ancestor was beaten to death in the fire god continent. The War King bared his teeth and looked at King Zhenwang. "Really?" King Zhenwang said faintly, "It's a little similar just now. Probably this old man didn't pay much attention to it before. Don't mind it too much. Your ancestor has been dead for tens of thousands of years and is separated from you by who knows how many generations of bloodline. Who cares about him?" The War King gritted his teeth. "I really have an ancestor." Everyone was speechless. "You don't have an ancestor. Where did you come from?" "So you're saying that my family has a close relationship with the ash cat?" The War King was a little depressed. Why was the entire family related to that cat? No wonder when he saw this cat back then, this cat wanted to brush its own fur. It turned out to be an ancestral business. King Zhenwang nodded. "Yes, your family and the ash cat did have a close relationship, and if Jiang Hao was included, it was even more so. Previously, he really didn't care too much about this. Just now, the God creation envoy had beaten him swollen. Thinking about it again, he could roughly guess that it should be the descendant of that big fatty, a member of the cat palace back then. Then can my ancestor revive?" At this time, the War King was no longer conflicted and asked, "If I can recover, why can't my ancestor?" "It's hard to say." King Zhenwang shook his head. "There's not much hope. It was different at that time. It wasn't that he deliberately held back at that time. He really wanted to kill. Tianchun almost died, let alone your ancestor. He should be dead." "That means he won't revive?" "It should be." "That's good, so as not to have another ancestor come out and make Lousy be that cat's chef." The War King said heartlessly, "Who knew how many generations they were separated by? Who cared? If the old ancestor really crawled out, then he had no choice but to admit it. He had already been dead for tens of thousands of years, so what did he care about?" At this point, the War King asked again, "What is the identity of the Thunder King?" As the identities of the experts were revealed, the Thunder King Xiao Weiguo no longer hid anything and said in a low voice, "I'm not some big shot. I am—" King Zhenwang directly interrupted him. "He is a disciple of the human emperor. His status is not low, and his identity is a bit complicated. He was a king of the human world more than 10,000 years ago, and there were some legends left behind in the myths, but they were almost obliterated. In the past, he was considered strong, but in the end, when the immortal source was successfully forged and the orthodoxy of the human world was destroyed, this guy's strength fell. Oh, he is also the great pope." The War King was stunned. "Impossible. He can't be the great pope. If he is the great pope, then—" King Zhenwang waved his hand. "Let me finish. He is not the great pope. Then just now you said that you were playing with me." King Zhenwang said angrily, "Let me finish. He is the great pope. Forget it. It is too king complicated. The great pope is long dead. Do you really think I am an idiot? After the great pope died, I was too lazy to let King Kuan make a move. So I let him join King Kuan. And later on, the great pope was him." I don't know if he is, but I don't know if he is. So in the beginning, he was not the great pope, but later on he was. Then those things that the evil sect did, the Thunder King said in a muffled voice. I have been in the catacombs all this time, less than a year out of 100 years. How would I know what the evil sect did? Don't push everything to me. Every little thing is my responsibility. Fong Ping said before that he will settle the score in the future. This matter is up to him. King Zhenwang was puzzled. Why does he have to be the great pope? Is there a need to play dirty? You don't understand. King Zhenwang said casually. First, to reduce trouble, lest King Kun keeps sending people in, it is too troublesome. Second, King Kun has broken 8. How did he do it? I am actually more curious. This trash is not considered too much of a genius. How did he break the Sanjiao Gate? This I have been thinking about. You knew that he had broken 8 before? Sky-suppressing Heavenly King yawned and said, I know a little. He is really arrogant. When he broke 8, he even came to provoke me. I ignored him and told unquestionable Jian to exchange a move with him. He was a little afraid and ran. How did he break 8? I really find it a little strange. As he said that, King Zhenwang touched his chin and said, Not everyone can break 8. The weapon master is the final battle of life and death. Suppressing was fighting with the Beast Emperor back then. This blacksmith, because he has forged too many divine weapons, he has some skills. He pulled out his own Sanjiao Gate. Anyway, he is fake 8. Don't take it seriously. God Creation Envoy curled his lips, too lazy to care. Your whole family is fake 8. If it's Hongyu, that is because he has been the emperor of the 3 realms for 3,000 years. Heavenly Dog, that is because he can eat. God knows what he ate back then. It seems like his Sanjiao Gate was broken. Tianchen, that old thing was too close to the origin back then. He did not experience the time when the Sanjiao Gate was sealed. King Zhenwang hesitated. Hongkuan, that is really something. I don't even know how he broke 8. The secret is not small. So I asked old Sha to go in, but in the end he did not succeed. Hongkuan did not say anything. I suspect that it has something to do with the Emperor of Earth. Maybe the Emperor of Earth gave him something in the end, or did something. That is why he broke 8. The War King bared his teeth and glanced at the few people present. They all have F***king identities. Only I don't. No, I do too. The Cat Palace brushes hair generals. The old ancestor might even be a part-time chef. He was also the adopted son of King Zhenwang. Yes, his identity could be considered complicated. There was also a true lord of divine divination, unquestionable Jian's martial uncle. However, very quickly, the War King said hesitantly, You group of sinister old fellows suddenly pulled me here today, saying so much. What are you trying to do? You might as well tell Fong Ping and the others. Why are you telling me? King Zhenwang laughed. Isn't this to let you understand more? Know some ancient secrets. Know some ancient secrets, in case you know nothing about these. What do you mean? King Zhenwang laughed again. Nothing. I just want you to know more. Maybe it will be good. At the side, Jiang Hao said in a deep voice, It's like this. When unquestionable Jian died, he told me something. Back then, he went to the Sky Tomb. You know, he was in the Sky Tomb. His strength increased greatly. Therefore, I want to make a trip to the Sky Tomb to improve my strength. The Sky Tomb that unquestionable Jian went to is a little different from the current Sky Tomb. Actually, it is not with the Heavenly Hound and the others, but another place. Originally, I could go alone, but King Zhenwang said that a few more people, more opportunities, also a little safer. The strength of humans now is average. You are also emperor rank. You are also old. If you want to improve further, it will be more difficult. Before he finished, King Zhenwang said bluntly, Let's put it this way. The weak won't do. The paragon will die too easily. Emperor rank is about the same. Powerhouses can go, but it is not worth it to die. Li Jun is still young. It is not worth it to die. Moreover, this old man still has some benefits to give him. There is no part for you. Shin Haotian, this guy's talent is not good. It will be a waste to go. I also won't let him go to die. Others, like Li Chongsheng, their talent is much stronger than yours. It is not worth it to go, no matter how you think about it. You and old Xiao are already too old. You still have the talent. You also have the strength. Go once, maybe you can gamble for a future. I am telling you all this to let you be prepared. What do you mean? Warlord said warily, saying all this has nothing to do with the sky tomb, right? King Jinwang laughed and said, a little, of course. It may not be useful. Anyway, you will know when you go. That place is a little complicated. Unquestionable Jian did not know how he found that place back then. We are all a little puzzled. He should have encountered some trouble there, and also encountered many opportunities. You, Jiang, Hao, old Xiao, the three of you go together. At least you can take care of each other. Maybe you will become a saint or a heavenly king there. King Zhen Wang tempted. Maybe directly break through 7 or 8, surpassing Fong Ping and the others. That is simply a treasure land. We want to go but can't go. You let that kid Li Jin accompany me. Get lost. King Zhen Wang scolded. Nonsense! How can the descendants of my Li family go to die so easily? Warlord's face darkened. What did he mean I can go? If I ask you to go, then go. Stop talking nonsense. King Zhen Wang said impatiently. Your luck is not bad. You may not die. You have the protection of 2 generations of human kings. No, old Xiao is also a generation, 3 generations of human kings, and the protection of the Ash Cat. I, King Jinwang, the soul of the Devil Emperor. You are so lucky. You even drank Spirit Emperor's bathwater. I think you will not die. Stop talking nonsense. Hurry up. All these years, unquestionable Jian has not been idle in the Hall of Myriad Origins, opening up a passage in the dark that leads there. It is in the middle of the 3 halls. I can only send 3 people over. The 3 of you go just right. All right. When I come back, this passage will not be there. After sending you away, this passage will collapse. Think of a way to come back. Also, don't stay too long. Too long, the battle might be over. Saying this, King Zhenwang said again, don't worry. After you die, I will think of a way to send that little fatty of yours to the Ash Cat to brush his fur. Maybe he can even marry Fong Ping's sister. Your Jiang family will also prosper, not a loss. That's it. Hurry up, don't waste time. No, before Warlord could finish, King Zhenwang punched out, and the innermost 3 halls of the Hall of Myriad Origins opened with a bang. 3 pitch-black passageways were revealed. King Zhenwang turned around, grabbed Warlord, and said casually, listen to me, go there and improve your strength. Your father will not harm you. If you die, then die. See if you can preserve your origin. After a few years, when I become an emperor, I will find a way to resurrect you. With a bang, the subduing heavenly king kicked him in. No, Warlord's voice was filled with despair, stopping abruptly. In an instant, he disappeared into a passage. This passage also collapsed in the blink of an eye. Jiang Hao was helpless. This can be discussed. King Zhenwang said impatiently, why go through so much trouble? Remember, be careful yourself. Don't worry about that guy. His luck is not bad. Probably nothing will happen, but you guys are in more danger. Also, don't talk too much to him. If you talk too much, this guy will think too much and easily get into trouble. Fatty looks honest, likable, and knows little. This is a good thing. If you guys know too much, it's actually dangerous. I've said everything I need to say. Go as soon as possible, lest this fatty gets lost alone. Jiang Hao did not say anything else, took a step forward, and instantly disappeared into the passageway. The passageway collapsed. Thunder King did not say much. His eyes were complicated. And he stepped in. Some things should have an outcome. Seeing the 3 of them leave, The God creation envoy stopped joking and said seriously, that place, how was it formed? King Zhenwang shook his head. Don't ask me. It might be because the war back then was too intense. The 9 emperors and 4 emperors were all participating in the war, and there was even the guy who created the origin, as well as many beginner martial artists, and a large number of people who broke through 8. It was understandable that there would be some mutations in the end. With so many powerhouses taking action, anything is possible. That's true. The God creation envoy looked at the collapsed passageway. You and I, it's not of much use to you and me, forget it. King Zhenwang did not continue this topic and quickly looked outside, saying softly, I'm more curious. What's going on with that kid Fong Ping? The God creation envoy raised his eyebrows and muttered. Maybe. King Zhenwang's eyebrows twitched, and he said in a low voice, I hope he's fine. This kid is not someone to be trifled with. When that time comes, he will flip the table and not care about this. It's up to him. The 2 top-notch powerhouses quickly fell into silence. There were some things that they knew more than others, but if they said it out loud, it might not be of any help. Instead, it might cause some trouble. P.S. Push a book. I am the Otherworld login device. A game masterpiece. Brothers can take a look. Chapter 1234. Magic City, Sky Island. Fong Ping was currently in closed-door cultivation on Sky Island. The system screen was black, but Fong Ping was not idling around. He had been studying his new path of origin for the past few days. Not only was he in closed-door cultivation, but he had also caught the gray cat to accompany him in closed-door cultivation. Naturally, he did not catch the cat to pet it. It was because the path that the gray cat took was similar to his path in general. He wanted to see if there was anything worth learning from. At this moment, Fong Ping was in the gray cat's cat world. The cat world was slightly bigger than before. The first time he entered the cat world, Fong Ping did not even have origin, so he did not have a deep feeling. This time, when he entered again, the feeling was completely different. He also had a source world, and he had traveled quite far. Entering again, the feeling was different. Behind him, the fat gray cat was wriggling. Fong Ping was curious. Was wriggling really easier than walking? Had this cat ever thought that wriggling would consume more energy? The fat gray cat wriggled, dragging a deep trench on the ground. Only this place could recover quickly. Otherwise, it would have become a lush slope crisscrossed by ravines long ago. Ignoring the cat, Fong Ping squatted down, grabbed a handful of soil, and pinched the soil. It was extremely real. Or rather, it really existed. It was different from Fong Ping's source world. Fong Ping's source world, other than a small area, was all fake soil. It was constructed by origin energy. As for the gray cat, its source world was constructed by origin soil. Fong Ping pinched a handful of soil and asked, Big Cat, where did you get your origin soil? The gray cat that was wriggling behind him secretly ate a fish monster, then raised its head and said, I picked it up. Speak human language. The gray cat was depressed. It was speaking cat language. How could it speak human language? After thinking for a while, it muttered, I dug it up in the source universe. Sometimes I can see origin soil in the source universe. Sometimes when I see it, I dig some back. The reason why it dug the soil diligently was that the cat captain told it that digging soil to breed fish monsters could make them more delicious. Therefore, in those years, the gray cat dug a lot. The origin universe was huge, but things like origin soil weren't everywhere. If he was lucky, he would be able to find some. Fong Ping raised his head and looked at the sky. He could not see the universe outside, but he seemed to be deep in thought. He said, There's origin soil in the origin universe. That means there might be a world entirely constructed from origin soil. Are there people living in it? The cat replied lazily, I don't know. Haven't you seen it when you roam the origin? Nope. The old cat continued. Also, it's the origin form that roams the origin source, not the real body. Even if someone can roam the origin source and find a place with a lot of origin source soil, it's only the origin form that survives there. Fong Ping frowned slightly and thought for a while before saying, I don't think so. I asked you, old man. Although he can't roam the essence with his fleshly body right now, his fleshly body is illusory. According to him, given some time, he might be able to roam the essence world with his fleshly body. Big Cat, have you tried merging your body with the origin? Not yet. Should I give it a try? Fong Ping's gaze flickered slightly, and he smiled. Once the fleshly body has merged with the origin, people like us are almost invincible. Not just anyone can roam the origin world. If we encounter danger and hide in the origin universe, who can do anything to us? Not only that in the origin world, merging the fleshly body means that we can unleash our full strength. As for the other party, when their fleshly body is outside, their strength will definitely be greatly weakened. In this way, those fellows with weak origin will be sending themselves to their deaths if they encounter us. If we encounter beginner martial artists, we can hide in the origin world, and the other party can't do anything to us. The cat blinked. Was that so? Merging the fleshly body into the origin, Fong Ping continued. Our origin world is different from other people's. I'm thinking now, can our origin world be merged with the fleshly body in the end? Or should I say become an inner world and be controlled and merged by our fleshly body? The cat expressed that he did not understand. As a cat, he could not be bothered to understand. Fong Ping smiled quickly and said, That's how it is to play the piano to a cat. Forget it. Let's not talk about this. Let me ask you, have you forged jade bones? The cat stared at him with widened eyes. After a while, it said, No, doesn't that mean I've become a jade cat? Then, has your mentality gone through a qualitative change? Fong Ping looked at it again. He was actually very curious about how strong the cat's mentality was. This cat seemed to have never shown it before. It only pulled people into its cat world. It did not seem like it had been pulled into other people's origin world. Pulling people was related to mental strength. Qualitative change. I don't know. Fong Ping had expected it. The dumb cat did not know anything. It would be a waste of time to ask. The only thing he could do was to experience it directly. Fong Ping wanted to know how many hertz it would take to achieve a qualitative change in mentality. Fong Ping knew about the qualitative change in jade bones. It would require at least jade bones. What about mentality? What characteristics did it have? How strong did one's mentality have to be? Use your mentality to attack me and try. Fong Ping thought about it and felt that it was not appropriate. He was about to change his words and let the cat display it casually. In the next moment, Fong Ping's vision went black. He only felt that he did not know anything and was in a trance. In the cat world, the cat looked at the dazed Fong Ping with a look of innocence. You made me do it. I didn't want to do it. I didn't know you were so weak. Liars were so weak. The cat sighed. So, mentality could be used like this. So, it could beat people until they became stupid. This cat had never thought of beating people up like this. Just as the cat was sighing endlessly, Fong Ping's eyes gradually regained clarity. He looked at the cat, his expression fluctuating. He was actually deterred by mentality. One had to know that the current him had more than 20,000 hertz of mentality. Under normal circumstances, when one had just reached emperor level, their mentality was generally around 20,000 hertz. When he reached saint level, it would be close to 30,000 hertz. Fong Ping had seen heavenly kings before and had discussed them with old Zhang and the others. Old Zhang's mentality was considered strong, close to 40,000 hertz now. Powerhouses who had broken through 7 should be above 50,000 hertz. When one's mentality had reached this point, it was easy to deter some weak people. If the difference was too big, one could directly destroy the other party's mentality, turning them into a living dead. Their flesh would still be there, but it would not be a problem for their mentality to be obliterated. However, mentality deterrence was not omnipotent. For example, Fang Ping's vitality was strong, so he could withstand mentality deterrence. In the beginner martial lineage, some people walked the mentality path, while some walked the physique path. If one's mentality was not as good as the other party's, they would definitely die. Then, those who walked the physique path would all be dead. If one's vitality was strong, mentality might not even be able to break the physical defense, so naturally, it could not deter the other party. Similarly, for powerhouses who walked the mentality lineage, although their physical bodies were weak, it did not mean that they could kill the other party with a strong physical body. If one could not break the other party's mentality defense, one could not do anything to the other party either. Both of them had their own merits. However, there were not many martial artists who cultivated strong mentality. Most of them walked the physique path. For most powerhouses, the use of mentality was not in the path of attack, but in other areas. Consolidating the origin, developing the origin, these were the methods that most powerhouses used mentality. Fang Ping had not been suppressed by someone's mentality for a while, but today he was completely suppressed by the cat. How many hertz? Fang Ping murmured in his heart. He could not even sense it clearly. Fortunately, the cat was not hostile toward him. Otherwise, he would be in big trouble. Of course, this was related to the fact that his physical body was not here. This was his origin. If his physical body was here, the cat would not be able to suppress him with mentality so easily. Fang Ping looked at the cat, and the cat stared back at him with wide eyes, looking very innocent. Again, don't do it to me. Show me a little more. The cat condensed a ball of mentality, casually, like a ball of yarn. Fang Ping glanced at it and frowned slightly. After sensing it for a while, he said, "It's very tough. It feels like it has gone through a qualitative change. How many balls of yarn like this can you condense if you unleash all your mentality?" "A lot." "Be specific." The cat ate the ball of yarn in one bite. Fang Ping's mouth twitched as he watched. It ate everything. What was this cat thinking? "I can eat 1,000 of them." Fang Ping ignored it and murmured, "That ball just now, I'm afraid it's about 200 hertz. If that's the case, 200 hertz?" Fang Ping was shocked. That much? No, this might be mentality after a qualitative change. In other words, before the qualitative change, it might be 100,000 hertz. That could not be right. If this was the case after a qualitative change in mentality, then it would not have much effect on vitality. Could a qualitative change in mentality affect the changes in vitality? Did this cat transform into a jade bone, making its vitality stronger, or was it because of its mentality? However, very soon, the cat's words made Fang Ping understand a little. "Liar, having strong mentality is useless," the cat said suddenly. Fang Ping looked at it. The cat said casually, "Do you think mentality has gone through a qualitative change?" "I don't know if it is, but I remember that a long time ago, mentality was mentality and vitality was vitality, but one day, spiritual power suddenly turned into qi and blood, and then qi and blood became spiritual power." "What do you mean?" Fang Ping was stunned. The cat said innocently, "That's what I mean. Actually, the energy is the same. Didn't you notice?" "What energy is the same?" "It's vitality and mentality." Fang Ping was stunned for a moment. "Old Manly?" The cat looked at him, not quite understanding what he was doing. "Old Man Li, 10,000 das as one. Fong Ping swallowed. He understood. He really understood. The cat was saying that after his mentality had gone through a qualitative change, the energy of vitality and mentality had become one, turning into a type of energy. It had just demonstrated that its mentality was powerful, but it was not just mentality, or rather, it was also demonstrating its vitality energy. You're saying that after mentality has gone through a qualitative change, the energy has actually become one. Fong Ping mumbled. The cat looked at him. I didn't say it. You said it yourself. After the energy became one, there was a qualitative change, and not a qualitative change in mentality that triggered a qualitative change in vitality. The cat continued to look at him. You said it yourself. I didn't say it either. So, in the end, everything is still about becoming one. Fong Ping felt something again. At his level, the thing he felt the most at this moment was becoming one. He was probably not the only one who felt it. Powerhouses who had reached this level all had some understanding. Different paths led to the same destination. All powerhouses who walked different paths would eventually reach the point of becoming one. As for what kind of energy came out of this becoming one, perhaps it depended on one's own bias. It was said that the 4 emperors of extreme path had taken an extreme path. Celestial Emperor walked the path of the flesh. However, Fong Ping was wondering if Celestial Emperor could convert his vitality into mentality. Maybe it was possible. When the vitality had gone through a qualitative change to that point, it might be possible. Similarly, could Celestial Emperor Annihilate's mentality be converted into vitality force? It should be possible. However, they might not have completely reached the point of becoming one. If they had, perhaps the form of energy would not be different, but the same. The great path becomes one. The energy becomes one after the qualitative change in mentality. Instead of saying that the vitality has become stronger, it's better to say that the mentality has integrated into the vitality, causing the vitality to change. Fong Ping took a deep breath, looked at the cat again, and asked, Your mentality is so strong. If you use it alone, can you intimidate heavenly kings? The cat was confused. I don't know. I've never tried. 200,000 hertz. Although the energy has become one, mentality can still be separated. In that case, you might be able to suppress heavenly kings. Fong Ping said in a low voice, Ordinary heavenly kings only have tens of thousands of hertz of mentality. You're a few times more than them, the cat thought for a while, and said, They also have other energy enhancements, mentality, vitality force, origin force. Fong Ping nodded, but still said, Even so, your mentality is terrifyingly strong. How did you do it? I became stronger when I slept. Fong Ping wanted to say nonsense, but after thinking about it, he was too lazy to scold it. He squatted down and touched the origin soil. Fong Ping had some understanding in his heart. Maybe it had something to do with the expansion of the source world, the expansion of the cat's source world, and the origin soil strengthened its foundation. This might be the trigger for its strong mentality. In that case, this cat might not have forged jade bones. Fong Ping suddenly patted the cat's head. The cat looked at him. Why did you hit me? Once the jade bone transforms, the source world expands by 1,000 meters. Maybe there's another qualitative change. 2 qualitative changes? It's close to 4 million calories now. After 2 qualitative changes, wouldn't it be more than 16 million calories? Fong Ping stared at the cat. If this cat worked hard, there might be another 2 chances for qualitative changes. As for jade bones and the source world, Fong Ping felt that it was not too far away. Was this considered a good preparation? In the first tens of thousands of years, the cat was not considered too strong. However, when it reached a critical point, It became strong in all aspects and would undergo metamorphosis again and again. Was this the benefit of this path? All-round improvement, breakthrough 7, or even 8? Fong Ping looked at the slightly curved path in the distance again. There was origin force seeping over. Could this cat still borrow the strength of this source path to increase its strength? Maybe everyone had underestimated the cat. 30,000 years of accumulation had put it at an explosive point. If this cat was given a little more time, perhaps there would be an earth-shattering change in its strength. As for himself, Fong Ping's gaze changed. Maybe he could also undergo rapid metamorphosis and quickly transform himself to this realm. Origin soil. Maybe I need a lot of origin soil to complete such a transformation, the expansion of the source world. Without things like the heavenly king seal, may still need to integrate the Earth's cities to complete it. Thinking of this, Fong Ping said quickly, "Big cat, I'll give you a mission. Get me some origin soil." The cat looked reluctant. It was so troublesome. "I'll give you origin force. Use origin force to exchange for origin soil. Origin force can be used to grow a fish-headed monster." As Fong Ping said that, he suddenly asked, "Can I roam the source?" He was similar to the cat. The cat could do it, but what about him? He had not tried it before. The cat shook its head. "I don't know. You'll know when you fly and see for yourself." Fong Ping's gaze moved slightly. At this time, the sky above the cat's cat world suddenly cracked open. The cat said happily, "Liar, do you want to fly together and see?" Fong Ping was also tempted. Very quickly, he and the cat soared into the sky, flying toward the vast source universe. The moment they flew out of the cat world, Fong Ping looked back. The cat world was like a drop of water in the sea, almost without any form. This was Fong Ping's first time flying out of the source planet and toward the source universe. At this moment, Fong Ping only felt the vastness and loneliness. This was like a dead universe. There was no life, no human voice, only loneliness. The cat seemed very excited. Perhaps it was lonely too. In the past, it was the only cat roaming and wandering in this vast universe. Today, there was one more person. However, after flying for a while, Fong Ping's expression changed. "No, I feel like I'll get lost soon." Not only did Fong Ping feel that he was lost, but he also felt his origin body dissipating. If this went on, once he was lost in the universe, his origin body would overflow, and without replenishment, he might die. The cat also noticed that something was wrong with him. It turned its head and gave him a look a little regretful. Its origin fluctuated. "Liar, you and your source world haven't merged into one. You'll get lost." It was a pity that Fong Ping could not leave. There was no way he could walk in the source universe. If this went on, Fong Ping would soon disappear in the universe. The cat was a little disappointed. In this dark and lonely universe, perhaps it was still the only cat walking. The cat stopped roaming. Its tail wrapped around Fong Ping, and it quickly flew toward its own cat world. After a while, Fong Ping returned with some lingering fear. "I can't leave for too long, or else I'll dissipate easily." The cat nodded its big head, saying regretfully, "Yes, or else you could go play with me. I've always wanted to find the door, but I'm just a cat. No one will bring me along, so I don't want to go." "What door?" "The door that's blocking the road." The cat said curiously, "I also want to see what the door blocking the road looks like. Once, I seem to have seen the door flash by just in the cat world, but there is no one to accompany me. I don't want to look for it." Fong Ping frowned. "Is the Sanjiao Gate really in the source world? Does it have a real entity?" "It should be." The cat was still in a daze, so it was not very clear. It said casually, "We should be able to find it. Look for a few hundred stars." You didn't see these stars, but they're all moving in the same direction. If we follow that direction, keep flying, we might be able to find it. The end of the road? I don't know. The cat wagged its tail. Liar, let's go find the door together next time, okay? Why do you want to find the door? Draw a cat. The cat was delighted, its face swollen from laughing. Draw 3 big cats. 2 is fine too. I'll leave 1 door for you to draw yourself. In the future, when others cultivate, they can always see me, and you. Fong Ping was stunned for a moment. It seemed to make sense. That was right. What could be more fun than this? From now on, anyone who cultivated the Sanjiao Gate would be able to see him and the cat, as long as this road was still there and this source was not destroyed. Then all the source martial artists would be able to see him. Fong Ping suddenly had an idea. If he went to the end of the road now, found the 3 doors, and wrote, "Fong Ping is invincible," on the door, would there be any changes in the Sanjiao Gate of all the source powerhouses in the 3 realms? Would it be reflected? If so, then it would be really awesome. Fong Ping swallowed his saliva. What a great goal. He was a little tempted. Brain nucleus. The brain nucleus fuses with the source, fusing the source and the body into one. I think I understand now. Fong Ping once again understood many things on this day. As for the old cat, although its explanation was vague, it also brought Fong Ping endless inspiration. After leaving the cat world, Fong Ping began to consolidate the source. He tried to integrate the brain nucleus and enter the source world. This time, the system upgrade lasted for a long time. After 3 days of closed-door cultivation, Fong Ping did not wait for the system upgrade. He prepared to take advantage of this period to do something else. For example, integrating Magic City. For example, looking for Heavenly King Zhen to discuss the forging method of jade bones. On the 16th of May, Fong Ping walked out of the closed-door cultivation. He did not go anywhere else. On this day, he began to walk around Magic City. He wanted to try to integrate Magic City into his source world, strengthen the source, and expand the world. This time, it was very difficult. Magic City was much bigger than Sun City. Integrating Magic City, Fong Ping felt that his source world might undergo a major expansion. Fong Ping still discovered the difference between his path and the cat's. His source world had a city, but the cat did not, and this might be different in the future. Fong Ping did not know whether the source world integrating a city was good or bad, but he knew that this was an ability derived from the Emperor Path. At least at this time, it was good for Fong Ping and not bad. Magic City. Since coming to Magic City 3 years ago, Fong Ping had spent most of his time in Magic City. This place could be considered as his second hometown. He had experienced many things here. He had met many people, made many friends, had regrets, and had exciting moments. Until today, Fong Ping finally had the time, in a real sense, to tour Magic City for the first time without rushing. He saw many acquaintances, even saw a company with a distance signboard, and saw Li Qingze, whom he met when he first came to Magic City. Fong Ping had almost forgotten all of this. Everything was like a dream. 3 years ago, he came to Magic City alone. He wanted to conquer a world that belonged to him. He, who was short of money, wanted to build a big business empire at that time. He had many dreams. He even thought of delivering fast food in the catacombs on a whim. Today, looking back, it was a little funny, a little childish, but also full of memories. At that time, perhaps it was his happiest time. In the distance building, Li Qingze, who was busy, suddenly had an idea. He walked to the floor-to-ceiling window and looked down. He seemed to see someone, but he did not. He was a little dazed, a little absent-minded. 3 years. 3 years ago, he was an aspiring martial artist. Today, he had achieved rank 6. Everything was because of Fong Ping. Rank 6 now seemed like nothing. However, Li Qingze did not forget who he was working for. He was working for that legend, working for that savior. He was the representative of the King of Man. It had been a long, long time. Fong Ping did not come again because he was too busy. Everyone knew that the King of Man was so busy that he was tired. Fong Ping, after murmuring, Li Qingze's expression was complicated. 3 years ago, did he ever think that he would have this day? Below, Fong Ping stopped for a moment. He did not stay any longer, continuing to wander among the crowd. In the past, he only had a small family. Today, his small home had grown from one family to an entire race, the entire earth. If that was the case, it did not matter whether he went a distance to take a look. I only hope that this prosperous era continues, Fong Ping murmured. This sigh came from the bottom of his heart. It was the same sigh as the MCMEU grandmasters who walked out of the catacombs years ago. Chapter 1235. Magic City. A rumbling sound rang out. Heaven and earth shook. Cries of surprise rang out. At this moment, Zhang Tao broke through the air and arrived. Looking at Fong Ping, who was walking around below, he raised his eyebrows slightly. Beside him, Long Bian and Zi also broke through the air and arrived quickly. Looking at Magic City shaking, they looked puzzled. Fong Ping, below, seemed to be in a daze. When the words, "May the Golden Age continue," rang out, Zhang Tao suddenly felt like crying. He felt like crying. In the 100 years of new martial arts, many human powerhouses ran around and fought everywhere, all for this sentence. He said it before. Many people said it. However, when Fong Ping said it, he suddenly felt like crying. 21 years old, 3 years of martial arts practice. What should a child of this age do? This should not be the responsibility a child of this age should bear. Long Bian and these people only saw Fong Ping's glory, but he saw helplessness, saw the powerlessness of the human race. When he was 21 years old, he was far less stressed than Fong Ping. At that time, although the human race was weak, the war had not broken out. He enjoyed peace, enjoyed life. Fong Ping did not. War after war, full of scars, only he knew the pain. Bearing the pressure this age should not have, the responsibility this age should not have, and the glory this age should not have. I'm sorry. A whisper, so low that it could not be heard. He could only say sorry. He was the one who led Fong Ping on this path. He was the one who handed the pressure of the race's survival to Fong Ping. However, he had no choice. He could not bear the pressure, could not bear the responsibility. He could only choose someone more suitable and more powerful than him to replace him and bear all of this. Beside him, Long Bian and Zi could not understand such emotions. In their opinion, Fong Ping was too successful. His success was beyond imagination. 21 years old, a heavenly king. Even if the human race was stressed now, it was far less than before. What was there for Fong Ping to be dissatisfied with? What did Zhang Tao have to be sorry for? They did not understand. Someone understood. Old man, Li came through the air. When he heard the murmur, he looked at Zhang Tao with a complicated gaze. He said softly, actually, he knows everything. When he took over as the president of MCMAU's Martial Arts Society, he might not have known much. However, from the day he returned from the Forbidden Zone, from the day he decided to annihilate Magic City's catacombs, he knew what he was doing. He accepted this burden, and he would not regret it. And you don't need to apologize. Zhang Tao smiled, as if he had forgotten everything that had just happened. He looked down and said with a smile, "Looks like he has gained something this time." At this moment, Shanghai seemed to be faintly discernible from the outside of Shanghai. Zhang Tao had also embarked on the emperor's path. He did not have Fang Ping's ability to integrate some cities, but he could sense some things. At this moment, there seemed to be a special ripple in the world. The ripples of the origin. He had actually seen Fang Ping's source world before. Right now, Fang Ping was probably integrating Magic City. Shanghai had a population of tens of millions. Fang Ping's emperor path was not broken yet. Yes, at this moment, Zhang Tao realized that Fang Ping's Renhuang path was not broken. It was not that the path was not broken, it was that the heart was still there. He had not given up on the human race, so he was a king of a generation or even an emperor of a generation. At this moment, Zhang Tao was deeply moved. He felt gratified that he had a successor, but he also felt worried and fearful. How long could this golden age last? The three realms was in flux. Although the human race was strong, in the center of the storm, could these commoners really enjoy this golden age forever? Perhaps in the next moment, tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, this golden age would become a reflection in the mirror. Zhang Tao's emotions fluctuated. Very quickly, he calmed himself down. He could not panic, nor could he be pessimistic. There was no need for him to be pessimistic. People of Magic City, the three realms are in turmoil. The war is still going on. Can the children of the human race continue to fight? Zhang Tao's voice resounded everywhere. Old Man Li glanced at the trembling Fang Ping and the terrified humans below. He suddenly roared, "Yes! Yes!" Below, roars were heard. Of course they could fight. Yes! One by one, the martial artists roared. In the blink of an eye, it swept across the entire Magic City. Countless commoners were roaring too. Fang family. Fang Yuan waved his fists and shouted, "Yes!" All the children of the human race could fight. In the 100-Year War, there were countless deaths and injuries. Only this passion had not been extinguished. Macmao, Wu Quishan roared. All the children of the Martial Arts University could fight. Their passion would never be extinguished. The House of Governors. Magic City's governor echoed loudly. They could fight. 300,000 Magic City Army martial artists were on standby. They could fight at any time and wipe out the enemies in all directions. Food markets, commercial streets, martial arts universities. At this moment, the entire city was boiling. In the sky, Zhang Tao smiled. It did not matter whether they were strong or weak. As long as their will to fight was not extinguished, that was enough. 100 years ago, we were so weak, but we still survived until now. Martial artists must fight. Martial artists must fight. 100 years ago, the first military minister of the three departments wrote this sentence on the title page of the Methods of Honing. Fight. Fight for 100 years. For 100 years, no one did not fight. After fighting for so long, the light was right in front of them. The human race is surrounded by enemies. Is there anyone who is afraid? No. If one day you have to kneel and beg for your life until the last person, are you willing to kneel? No. Then let the human race be one, working together. Zhang Tao's tone was impassioned. He shouted, "Fang Ping and I are willing to fight the three realms again. But I'm afraid that one day the human race will give up. I'm afraid that one day we will die in a foreign land. The human race will compromise. I'm afraid." He's afraid. Everyone is afraid. So afraid that we don't dare to die. Zhang Tao roared, "Afraid to die, afraid to die. The people will be scattered. The race will be wiped out. Everyone is afraid. They are afraid of wolves in front and tigers behind. Their will to fight is being obliterated. Today, I ask you again, if we die in battle, are you willing to fight again? Yes. If we die in battle, will the human race still be human? Yes, angry roars resounded in all directions. Fong Ping was afraid to mention this. He told everyone that if he did not die, the human race would not be wiped out. But who could guarantee that they would not die? Fong Ping could not. Zhang Tao could not either. He was not afraid to mention this. At this point, he was not afraid that the human race could not bear it. At this moment, he shouted, "Remember, even if we die in battle, it's nothing. There will always be heroes. There will always be new people. Don't give up. Don't despair. One day, we will stand up again. Just remember, as long as the fire in our hearts is not extinguished, the human race will not be wiped out. A single spark can start a prairie fire. With this spark, we can burn all enemies. Remember, heaven and earth were shaking. Remember." They remembered Zhang Tao's words. They remembered the martial king's words. Even if tears streamed down their faces, they remembered. Even if one day the martial king and the battle king really died in battle, they would not forget the martial king's words today. There was hope. There was light. Darkness was not scary. Magic Capital was exploding. The earth was shaking. The Tao was boiling. At this moment, and dragon transformation felt different, very different. At this moment, between heaven and earth, paths that looked like veins appeared. The Tao connected to the sky. At the end of the world, there seemed to be 3 doors appearing. Zhang Tao looked on coldly from the sidelines. He saw the world of nothingness and the end of the path. He did not know how far it was. The 3 closed doors were faintly discernible at the end of the darkness. Zhang Tao seemed to see a pair of eyes. At this moment, Zhang Tao suddenly laughed. His vitality broke through the clouds, even breaking through the world's barrier, descending into that side of the world. A golden path that connected to the sky spread, extending toward the end of the world. Zhang Tao stepped on the path, walking toward the sky step by step. "I want to see all of you." Zhang Tao's tone was amused. "Look at your faces. Remember your faces. Let's see when the day comes. Do you break your faces or tear them apart?" The darkness was silent. Zhang Tao's vitality covered heaven and earth. At this moment, at the end of the darkness, there seemed to be an eye looking at the human world. Zhang Tao's vitality erupted again, covering heaven and earth, covering Fong Ping below. "I am the emperor. The day I become the emperor will be the time when the human race is invincible. I am the emperor. I will kill all enemies. With me, there is no one. I am the emperor, Martial King Zhang Tao." His voice pierced through the world's barrier. At this moment, it echoed in the source world. At the end of the darkness, the eye-like object stared at him for a while. After staring for a while, the smear of white disappeared. In the sky, the countless Tao veins disappeared. At this moment, Lin Zi and dragon transformation felt like they were suffocating. Zhang Tao was sweating profusely, but he laughed. "Stupid bird." The martial king, who was excited earlier, was now laughing so hard that his stomach hurt. He clutched his stomach and laughed. "Emperor, that's nothing. Didn't I trick you into calling me father?" Everywhere was silent. Dragon transformation and Lin Zi were also sweating profusely, their faces pale. This martial king was crazy. At this moment, Old Manly came over in the air, his expression solemn. He said in a low voice, "Just now, that was..." Zhang Tao chuckled. "When the people are united, the Tao appears. Although the human race is not invincible, they have shaken the Tao. When the Tao appears, if someone wants to peek, no matter if it's true or not, don't even think about it." Actually, he was not sure if someone wanted to peek. Whether that glowing white thing was an eye, he did not know. However, at this moment, Fong Ping was in Fusion Magic City. He had caused quite a commotion. attracting the attention of some people who might be in a deep sleep. Of course, he could not let this situation be exposed. He was a martial king, emperor. That was enough. Emperor was a legend. However, since it had spread, it was probably within the plan. If that was the case, then there was no need to worry too much about Emperor being powerful, because it was still within the plan. Old Zhang was also a schemer. How could he not understand this principle? He was afraid that there would be variables in all his schemes. In the plan, no matter how powerful, they could be dealt with. Even if he had broken 8, it might not attract the attention of some people. If that was the case, then he had nothing to be afraid of. He had to hide that guy below. At this moment, someone below sighed. Have some shame. Next time, don't steal my speech. Write it yourself. Zhang Tao was stunned. Then, he felt like cursing out loud. Your speech. Is this yours? I wrote this myself. Below, Fong Ping was walking on air, a smile on his face. Below him, there seemed to be countless shadows merging into his body. At this moment, Fong Ping could not hide his aura. Zhang Tao could sense his power. He was getting stronger and stronger. Magic City was also changing. The earth was shaking. Energy was exploding. The strong were becoming stronger. The weak were also becoming stronger. Fong Ping and Magic City seemed to have built an invisible channel. At this moment, Magic City even had a tendency to expand. The earth was shaking nonstop. The soil was getting stronger and stronger. A somewhat illusory city, a modern city, was slowly taking shape in Fong Ping's origin world. Magic City was too big. At this moment, this city that had taken shape began to spread, becoming bigger and bigger. Fong Ping was also giving back. Endless energy was overflowing. He was giving back to those people. Zhang Tao shook his head as he watched. Fong Ping actually had a similar ability. In his Tao, he could also give back to those figures. However, he really could not be like Fong Ping, disregarding the cost and consumption. When Fong Ping obtained the Saint Token and the Heavenly King Seal previously, he had smelted too much origin chi and imperishable substance. At this moment, he was consuming these things in large quantities, giving back to all directions. Fake Emperor. Fong Ping suddenly said. Old Zhang's expression turned ugly. You're the fake one. Your whole family is fake. Fong Ping said scornfully. He asked again, were those eyes just now? I don't know. Is that the Sanjiao Gate? Fong Ping also saw the thing that looked like the Sanjiao Gate at the end. Old Zhang pondered for a moment, nodded, and said, it should be. Tao is loosening. Fong Ping looked around and chuckled. Interesting. Did you feel it? Tao is not loosening. Actually, Old Zhang continued, saying slowly, it's getting closer to this world. Both of them nodded. Old man, Li also continued, that's right. In that moment just now, I seem to have felt it. That should be the source world, but it's like it's descending. As he said that, he said in a low voice, what does this mean? One day, will Tao descend to the real world? Old Zhang grinned. There's no hurry. Did you notice? The Tao of humans is getting easier to walk. It seems to be attracting Tao to descend. What is it that makes Tao keep getting closer to humans? The Tao from before was in another space, too far away from us. But now, it seems to be getting closer and closer to us. So, our Tao is getting easier. Fong Ping smiled. Tao getting closer to us is actually something that happened recently. There are many possibilities. The biggest possibility, maybe it's related to some different Tao. Tao, have you discovered it? There are 3 Tao. Only 3. Old Zhang raised his eyebrows. Fong Ping continued. Different paths lead to the same destination. In the end, Tao can only be divided into 3, but why can't it be divided into 1? Is it because someone wants to try to let thousands of Tao evolve and finally turn into one Tao? Fong Ping chuckled. I have some guesses. Maybe this is the purpose of some people. Recently, there seem to be more and more humans who have united. It's just that it's not very mature. Old Zhang nodded and did not continue this topic. He looked at Fong Ping and asked, How do you feel? Very good. Fong Ping chuckled. Everyone could feel it too. His qi activity was still strengthening. Magic City was also undergoing earth-shattering changes. Meanwhile, in Fong Ping's source world, Magic City was rapidly taking shape along MCMAU. In the source world, the 20 saint tokens and heavenly king seals began to sink. It seemed like they were going to be buried into the ground to consolidate this part of the world. A brain nucleus with some cracks suddenly soared into the sky, flying toward the fake sun in the sky. Fong Ping wanted to hang the brain nucleus in the void. He had wanted to do this for a long time, but he had been worried about the problem of the brain nucleus cracking. Today, Fong Ping did it. Shattered? When the exchange with the cat ended, he was wondering why he could not roam the source universe. He had some ideas. Maybe it was because his union with the source world was not close enough, because he was different from the cat. He did not integrate the brain nucleus into the source. Today, Fong Ping had some realization. Maybe the brain nucleus would eventually integrate into the source, and the source would become his origin instead of being a lonely island hanging outside. Right now, the source world was an enclave. It did not have a close connection with Fong Ping. Fong Ping also thought of this when he thought of the cat's ability to roam the world. The reason why his source body was overflowing might be because of this. Magic City was still in the process of integration. Fong Ping's source world was undergoing earth-shattering changes. Countless figures appeared and entered Demonic City. In the sky, the new sun was getting brighter and brighter. Below, mountains, peaks, and lakes appeared. 4 fat babies flew out of the lake at this moment. They were unusually happy, circling the source world and spitting saliva. It was the first time it rained in the source world. Squeak, squeak, a few fat babies were still spitting saliva. On the ground, small lakes formed in some places and streams appeared in some places. At this moment, the plum blossom seal appeared in the sky. A cat pride opened the world wall, sneaking a peek at Fong Ping's world. The cat's eyes were full of surprise, full of curiosity. The liar's world was so interesting. There were so many people, so lively. It was much more lively than its world. At this moment, the cat seemed to recall a long, long time ago. It was so long that it could not remember when. Someone told it, the source world is also a world. Everything is revived. Heaven and earth are created, and the world is reincarnated. The cat did not quite understand and did not care about this. At this moment, its claws scratched the world wall, continuing to peek. It looked like it was having fun. The 4 fat babies seemed to have discovered it, flying toward it. The cat looked around furtively. Suddenly, its claws stretched out, grabbing a fat baby, letting out a snort of laughter. This cat wants to pick one up and bring it back. It also wanted rain in the cat world and rivers to appear in the cat world. This fat baby, the last time it saw it, it was very impatient. But now it wanted to pick it up. This fat baby could actually make it rain. It was too amazing. The cat hid this fat baby in its claws, peeking around for a while, wanting to leave. The liar did not notice, right? Just as it was about to leave, its fat head was slapped by someone. What are you doing? You're not allowed to take them away. I still have use for these few fat babies now. If I don't have any use for them in the future, I'll shove them over to your side. The cat was a little regretful that it was discovered. Fong Ping's figure appeared in the void, carrying the big cat out. grabbing its neck skin with one hand. The fat cat's neck was really fat, almost turning into a ball when he lifted it up. This cat could do something like that, actually wanting to steal its own fat baby. Fong Ping carried the cat. At this moment, like a god, he wandered around. It had changed. The source world seemed to have changed a lot. It had more vitality. It was not big. The place was still very small, like an ant kingdom. At this moment, densely packed figures were walking in Magic City. Fong Ping's incomparably huge figure was like a god. Big Cat, tell me, is there anyone else like me who has also integrated a world into the source? Fong Ping asked suddenly. He continued, as for me, I'm one of these people living in a world like this. Until the end, I don't even know that I'm actually living in a fake world. The cat looked at him doubtfully. Fong Ping laughed. Let me ask you something. You keep saying that I'm a thief who stole other people's energy. Do you know who I stole from? The cat scratched its ears with its claws. After a while, it said, I don't know. The first time I saw you, I just felt that the energy you used seemed a little familiar. I don't know whose it is, but it seems to be ownerless. Then it's not stolen, it's picked up. Fong Ping chuckled. Song Mao, tell me, if one day there's really a world in my source world, and it's a real world at that, when I die, will this world still exist? The cat looked confused. Dead. If I die, if the source world is not destroyed, and there's still the origin soil, then it might still exist. I'm considered their god of creation. If I die, and one of them walks out of this world, can they borrow the energy I left behind when I was alive? The cat was puzzled. It shook its head. I don't know. What energy do I have? What ability do I have? Fong Ping rubbed his chin. My imperishable substance, origin chi, mentality, and vitality force are all very powerful. At the very least, to some weaklings, the power of an expert like me is practically endless, and I'm actually just an emperor level. What about those who are more powerful? When the other party can borrow the origin chi that I left behind, then what should they borrow next? Fong Ping looked at the cat and smiled. Is there anything more powerful than origin chi? The cat hesitated. The power of unity. The power of unity? Fong Ping repeated, murmuring, other than this? Is there anything else? I want to know more. After walking out of this source world, am I still considered a human? The cat was confused. You're a human. Those shadows below, are they human? Fong Ping pointed at the shadows below. Did they have intelligence? Did they have any ideas? The cat thought for a while and said, they're human. They're outside. If you release their shadows, maybe they can merge with the people outside. 5 blow thunderstruck. Fong Ping's body trembled violently. Shadows. Released. Merge. Rebirth. Fong Ping. Merge. I'm Fong Ping, Fong Ping murmured. Is this the rebirth in my eyes? Whose world am I living in? At this moment, Fong Ping's emotions fluctuated violently. The cat looked at him doubtfully and said, they're themselves. Maybe it's just like a dream. I often sleep in the cat world. When I wake up, whatever I do in the cat world is like what I did myself. No, I did it myself. The cat said casually. So, whatever these shadows do now, when they leave and merge with me, maybe I'll know what they did. It's almost like a dream. Fong Ping exhaled. I can't do this yet. These shadows don't seem to be able to leave this world either. If that's the case, my world isn't mature enough. Fong Ping laughed. Is it a dream? A dream of grandeur. It's so similar. The first half of my life was just a dream. Interesting. The cat was confused. It really did not understand. Fong Ping did not mind it at all. He laughed. I'm still me. It's just that he understood some things. He kicked the cat away. He did not need this cat anymore. Fong Ping smiled brightly. All his doubts would be cleared up soon. Chapter 1236. He kicked the cat away. At this moment, the sky and the earth glowed with light. Fong Ping returned to reality, standing in the air like the Virgin Mary. With a smile on his face, he looked at the ground below. Yes, a Virgin Mary smile. Old Zhang looked at him awkwardly. What a familiar smile. Beside him, Old Manly said sullenly, "You used to smile like this." "No, it's still the same now." As soon as he said that, Long Change and Lin Zi quickly looked at Zhang Tao, then at Fong Ping. They looked left and right. Zhang Tao seemed to remember it too. He humphed, "My smile is sincere." "His smile is fake." Fong Ping turned his head and looked at him, smiling brightly. "My smile is sincere. I'm thinking, if I succeed one day and return you to you, you'll find out that you've been working as a labor and getting beaten up every day. I wonder if you'll be happy?" Zhang Tao raised his eyebrows. Although Fong Ping's words were a mess, he seemed to understand. He thought of the guy who looked similar to him when Fong Ping's source world descended that day. Motherf asterisk cur. Zhang Tao cursed in his heart. He could not help but say, "That's not me. It's you." Fong Ping rubbed his chin, muttering, "It should be you. I intercepted your origin. It's actually a small fragment of your life. Of course, I haven't integrated it for you yet. When I integrate it for you, you'll be you. So, you'll know everything that happened before." "I don't want it." "That won't do." Fong Ping smiled. "I don't have to give it to others, but you have to. You have to. Old Zhang, I'm the only one in the world. It's okay if others don't integrate, but you have to integrate and become one. So, I'll try my best to treat you well." Zhang Tao's teeth hurt. Fong Ping chuckled again. "What are your thoughts after the fusion?" Zhang Tao said impatiently, "What bullsh asterisk T, treat it as a dream. It's gone. Do you want me to kill you?" Fong Ping was slightly stunned again. He smiled quickly. "You don't mind?" Zhang Tao sneered. "What's so great about it?" "That's true." Fong Ping smiled. He stepped forward and patted old Zhang, lamenting, "The emperor is the emperor. You're really open-minded. Your Majesty, I will torture you in a more friendly manner. I hope you can understand my good intentions. Get lost. Don't be angry. It's just a dream." Fong Ping smiled brightly. "Here, I have comrades who share the same ideals. Here, I have teachers who are willing to sacrifice their lives for me. Here, I have a family who spoils me and loves me. Here, I have everything. Here, I have everything. I'm me, a different Fong Ping, the same me." Zhang Tao nodded. "I've memorized it. It's a good phrase. I'll use it next time." Fong Ping shook his head helplessly. "You weren't this shameless before." Thinking about it, it didn't make sense. He had been this shameless in the past, and he was still the same now. Fong Ping ignored him. He chuckled and said, "Old John, let's drink a lot today. Drink him up. Get him drunk. It feels so King good. Sometimes knowing is better than not knowing. Do you have any good wine?" "Yes." Zhang Tao laughed too. He knew that Fong Ping had been suppressing something in his heart, but he seemed to have gotten over it today. This was a good thing. "Congratulations." "Come on, let's go find Old Devil Lee. Old Man Lee, I'll bring you along. Forget about the others. We, the pillars of the human race, will go have a drink. The others are too weak. I won't bring them along." On the other side, Wu Quishan, who had just rushed over, was tired. Was it necessary? Weren't you afraid of being beaten to death by saying such heart-wrenching words? All right, probably no one could beat him to death now. More than 10 minutes later. Star Town. Fong Ping downed the wine in his glass in one gulp, laughing. Old Devil Jean, today is the first time we've drunk together. Cheers. Heavenly King Jean looked at Zhang Tao with a puzzled expression. Was this kid crazy? How could he say that? Zhang Tao shrugged. Don't look at me. I didn't teach him. This kid had always been like this, arrogant when he got what he wanted. Stop looking. Drink, drink. There are no fathers and sons on the table. Cheers. Fang Ping laughed heartily. Heavenly King Jean was speechless. Kid, I'm tens of thousands of years old. Aren't you being too disrespectful? I was wrong, Dad. Fang Ping begged for mercy, saying casually, I'll call you Dad. Okay. Heavenly King Jean was surprised. So polite? Since when did this kid Fang Ping become such a coward? I just said it, and he's begging for mercy and calling me Dad. This was too shocking. Fang Ping laughed carelessly. My dad is my dad. It's the same for you to be my godfather. You and my dad are brothers. Warlord is my older brother. Commander Li is my grandson from who knows how many generations. In this 3 realms, my seniority has suddenly risen. Not bad. Everyone was speechless, dumbstruck. Heavenly King Jean's teeth were aching. Motherf asterisk cur, he knew this kid was not a good person. If Li Jean heard this, he would die of anger. Yet, Fang Ping still looked like he was admitting defeat. I've already called you Dad. I'm a coward, right? Heavenly King Jean was helpless. Did I lose out or gain the upper hand? He was already 30,000 years old when Fang Ping called him, that he really could not say if he had lost out or gained the upper hand. He did not know whether to laugh or cry. Zhang Tao also burst out laughing. You're so shameless, kid. Really, I've learned 99% of what you did. Old man, Li finished his sentence and said impatiently, he used to be a little better. Although he was shameless, it wasn't to this extent. Ever since he met you, he's gone further and further down the path of shamelessness. Zhang Tao sneered. What does this have to do with me? I'm not his dad. Brother Zhang is right. Fang Ping nodded in agreement. Zhang Tao was mentally exhausted. All right, it's my fault. I shouldn't have led this bastard astray and let him go further and further down the path of shamelessness. Everyone joked for a while. Then Fang Ping said, Godfather, Heavenly King Jean's scalp went numb. He could not help but say, Don't. You can call me Old Ghost. Old Ghost Li, Old Ghost Jean, whatever. I lose. Heavenly King Jean really could not stand this form of address. It was too disgusting. Old Zhang and Old Man Li were impressed. Warlord did not learn Fang Ping's essence. Otherwise, Heavenly King Jean would probably not dare to mention that he was Warlord's godfather. Godfather, you can't say that. The respect I deserve is a must. Fang Ping said seriously, Didn't you want me to respect you? Listen, I'm so polite to you. I've already started calling you Dad. Are you afraid? He really did not think that he had lost out. This old man was so old that his teeth were falling out. So what if he called him Godfather? He could even do something to him. Heavenly King Jean's scalp continued to tingle. He said hurriedly, Tell me, what do you want from me? Godfather, don't be so realistic. I'm not that kind of person. If you don't say it, I'll throw you out. Heavenly King Jean's head hurt. One would not come to a temple for nothing. He did not believe that Fang Ping would really come to drink with him. Fang Ping laughed. Then I'll say it directly. First, how to forge jade bones. Second, how to quickly increase mentality to a level of qualitative change. Third, how far is the great path? How far is the end of the great path? Fourth, are King Ken and King Dui dead or alive? Are they preparing to revive? Where is the Heavenly King's seal? Fifth, since ancient times, how many people in the source world have integrated Earth's cities? Heavenly King Jun pondered for a while. He said, forging jade bones. This is too difficult. Under normal circumstances, you need to break 8 and break the gate of life. Under such circumstances, only the origin path can forge jade bones. This is also the limitation of an origin martial artist. There are losses, but there are gains. It's not as easy as beginner martial artists. What about abnormal situations? Forcefully breaking the boundary. Heavenly King Jin said, it's very difficult, but it's not impossible. Tyrant, Celestial Emperor, Motherf Ker. This bastard gave himself such a title. Every time I call him, I have to add Celestial Emperor. When he called the other Celestial Emperors, he called them by their names. However, when it came to Celestial Emperor Tyrant, he had no choice but to call them all. He could not take that loss. He could not stand that grievance. He would not call him Dad. When Celestial Emperor Tyrant had not broken 8, he had actually forged jade bones. Fong Ping could not help but interrupt. Let me interject. Moon Spirit seems to have forged jade bones too. Heavenly King Jin pondered for a moment. Not necessarily. You have to know that jade bones are not that easy to forge. After forging jade bones, the vitality will go through a qualitative change. This is also divided into complete and incomplete. Let's put it this way. You should still remember when you were a golden body 9 refinement. When you were not completely successful, was your vitality not complete and did not reach 2 times? Fong Ping nodded. That's right. At that time, there was a fluctuation in the middle. At first, it was only a little more than 1 time. Later on, it completed a qualitative change. You mean Moon Spirit might have forged jade bones, but it might not be a complete body. Heavenly King Jun explained, even beginner martial artists have this situation. Many people have forged jade bones, but only a part of it. That's why they will transform, but not completely. For example, that heavenly arm from before, the guy that I blasted away, his arms were truly complete jade bones. The vitality in his arms was definitely a complete qualitative change. However, the other parts are also jade bones, but they might not have completed a complete transformation. To put it more bluntly, there are 9 refinements to the golden body. Although jade bones are not divided into refinements, the golden body will only undergo a qualitative change when it reaches peak 9 refinements. Jade bones also need to reach peak. Understand? Fong Ping nodded. In that case, Moon Spirit might have forged jade bones, but it won't be a complete body. Of course. Heavenly King Jin said with certainty, a complete jade bone. If you don't break the life gate, it's almost impossible to achieve. This old man also doesn't think that Moon Spirit's aptitude surpasses that of the past and present. Celestial Emperor Tyrant really achieved this. Of course, he didn't have the Sanjiao Gate at that time, and the situation was a little special. Fong Ping nodded. Zhang Tao was also listening carefully. Old man Li was also listening. Jade bones were also very important to him. If you want to forge jade bones, first, your golden body must reach peak 9 refinements. Second, go through a transformation, a drastic transformation, a leap in life level. Heavenly King Jun said slowly, what is a leap in life level? We broke the life gate, but why can we forge jade bones? Because at that moment, there will be an incomparably huge, unimaginable vitality force that will surge into your body, change everything about you, let you transform, and complete the leap. And when you haven't broken it, this energy won't transform you. You can count on yourself. He glanced at Fong Ping. You have a lot of imperishable substances, but the imperishable substances are of limited help to jade bones. Perhaps you can use the imperishable substances to forge fake jade bones, which is the incomplete body I mentioned. But if you want to forge a complete body, it's almost impossible. You said it's almost impossible. Does that mean it's still possible? That's right. Heavenly King Jin grinned. Of course it's possible. For example, Celestial Emperor Tyrant. He did not go through this leap, yet he reached the jade bone level. How did he do it? Because he's a workat. What? A character like a big black bear. Heavenly King Jin said calmly, back then, there was no Sanjiao Gate, and the Tao was not established yet. That werecat's origin strength was also average, but this big black bear was born fearless, and he gambled with beginner martial artists. Back then, there were many beginner martial artists and many forged jade bones. Some forged arms, some forged leg bones, some forged skulls, some forged sternum. He went to find those beginner martial artists to gamble. If he won, the other party would give him the bones that had forged jade bones, and if he lost, he would become a slave. This battle lasted 100 years, and he won 92 battles. He won enough bones, broke those real jade bones, and integrated the jade quality in them. Only then did he forge a body of jade bones. You understand? Fang Ping nodded. Just as he was about to speak, Heavenly King Jin laughed. It's impossible now. Back then, there were many beginner martial artists, so he could do it and collect all these bones. In addition, back then, everyone's prejudice was not too deep. Now, if you kill a beginner martial artist, the other person's jade bones will not be given to you. Moreover, those beginner martial artists now, if they really have jade bones, their strength is not weak. The sacred martial god's body of jade bones has not actually reached the peak. It is not a complete body. Fang Ping frowned. Then there's no hope? Not really. There's another kind of person who also did it. Heavenly King Jin laughed. Do you know in the 3 realms now, who is the strongest among those who broke 8? You? Cough, cough. Maybe. Heavenly King Jin laughed. Let's not talk about this. Actually, there is still a guy who broke 8, and he is also terrifyingly powerful. That old thing that was locked up. God Creation Envoy. It's him. Heavenly King Jin grinned. Actually, he broke through the mentality gate and proved his Tao to be broken 8. But this old thing, he is sinister. Do you think he broke through mentality and proved his Tao to be broken 8? That might not be true. If I'm not wrong, although he might not have broken through the life gate, he should have forged jade bones. What? Fang Ping said in surprise. He forged jade bones too? The possibility is very high. Heavenly King Jin laughed. I'm not too sure, but hasn't he been studying cell division all this time? This old thing actually split himself into many parts. Those clones of his now are all semi-divine weapons. But do you think he doesn't have divine weapons? He does. But where are his divine weapons? Heavenly King Jin humphed. His divine weapons were taken by him to mend his bones. This old guy, who knows how many good things he has hidden all these years. I highly suspect that he dismantled the divine weapons and integrated them into his bones, which is equivalent to forging a set of fake jade bones. There might also be a qualitative change in his vitality. He's still studying clones now. I think he wants to study whether he can use clones to accumulate vitality and pretend to break through the vitality gate. Fang Ping was stunned. What did he mean? It's a fake. Heavenly King Jin explained. It's very likely that he faked it, pretending that he is jade bones. He's even prepared to deceive Tao and make himself look like jade bones. In this way, he might enter the second gate, directly break the gate, and forge a real jade bone. You have to know that Tao is not omnipotent and invincible. That old thing has a lot of ideas in his mind. He might have deceived Tao. For example, he created a fake Tao for himself, then used fake jade bones to attract the Real Gate and forged real jade bones. Fang Ping was stunned. Old Zhang was also stunned. What did that mean? The God creation envoy created a fake set of bones, then created a fake Tao, and then directly led to the gate of life, carried out a fake act, and finally turned into a real jade bone. Was that what it meant? Fang Ping was so shocked that his jaw almost dropped. Was that possible? Don't look at me like that. Heavenly King Zhen laughed. Don't think that he can't do it. You know Sherpo's origin realm, right? I know. His origin realm is fake. This was made by his blacksmithing disciple. You should know how good his own counterfeiting ability is. And Sherpa, relying on these fake things, also has hope of deceiving the source universe, using fake Tao to attract the increase of the true Tao. Heavenly King, Zhen said in a low voice, don't underestimate this guy. This guy only had emperor-level strength back then, but no one dared to underestimate him. Actually, he is also a beginner martial artist. He can even be considered a beginner martial artist of his generation. He created his own Tao. Now, strictly speaking, he is only borrowing the source of Tao. He did not cultivate the source, so how can he forge divine weapons? Divine weapons break the source. How can he break it if he does not understand the source? He understands. Heavenly King Zhen sighed. I suspect that he may have forged a fake Tao a long time ago. He may have been to the source universe a long time ago. This guy's understanding of the source will not be less than that of the gray cat. No, it will only be more. He is on good terms with the gray cat, and he harbors ill intentions. This guy may have instructed the gray cat to help him spy on the source universe. You can ask the gray cat, did this old thing let it spy on the source universe back? Then Fang Ping was stunned. In the next moment, he hurriedly took out his phone to make a call. Heavenly King Zhen and the others were stunned. You still use the phone? They had almost forgotten about the phone. The F*CK still used the phone now. Fang Ping did not care. He dialed a number and quickly connected. He said immediately, let the gray cat answer the phone. In the next moment, the gray cat's voice was heard, saying aggrievedly, you just kicked me and did not give me any benefits. We'll talk about it later. The frying pan gave you benefits back then. Did you help him wander the source universe? On the other side of the phone, the gray cat held the phone and thought hard. After a while it muttered, I think so. The frying pan gave me a frying pan. I think he asked me to draw a picture for him. This cat is very good at drawing. It was taught by the frying pan. Did you see the big cat last time? Is the drawing nice? The frying pan said that a cat that can draw is a good cat. That's why I learned it. Fang Ping gritted his teeth. The God creation envoy was amazing. I'm convinced. It turned out that this guy had really done this before. He actually asked the gray cat to spy on the source. Only he could think of it. However, this guy was really amazing. Fang Ping was extremely impressed. The God creation envoy was probably as the heavenly King Zhen had said. Back then, it had mastered some things through the gray cat and had a deep understanding of the source. It's none of your business. Go to sleep. Fang Ping hung up the phone and looked at the heavenly King Zhen. He smiled bitterly. It's true. The God creation envoy is really amazing. That's for sure. The heavenly King Zhen laughed. Will the 9 emperors and 4 emperors be so polite to an emperor level? Of course, he has some skills. That's why I think that if you want to forge jade bones, it's not very useful to ask me. My suggestion is to break 8, break the gate of life, and forge jade bones. However, there might be other ways to find a blacksmith. Of course, if you grind slowly and use imperishable substances to continuously temper your bones, you might be able to reach the stage of a pseudo-jade bone. It's just that the qualitative change hasn't reached that stage yet. Fang Ping thought for a while. Breaking 8 means that you can break 8. Vitality should generally be 20 million calories. Once there's a qualitative change, wouldn't it be 40 million calories directly, and you can break 9? He could not figure it out. Since the heavenly King Jun and the others had broken 8 and had a qualitative change after breaking 8, why did they not break 9? The great Tao has limits. It's very normal. The heavenly King Jun explained, let's put it this way. When you break 7, your basic vitality is 4 million calories. Breaking 7 usually increases by more than 3 times, close to 4 times. If that's the case, after the increase, your vitality will be close to 20 million calories, and you can break 8. Has this reached the stage of breaking 8? Fang Ping nodded. When you successfully forge jade bones, your vitality will change qualitatively. Then, your basic vitality will be 8 million calories, right? Fang Ping nodded again. The heavenly King Jun laughed. According to the degree of increase, logically, it should be about 40 million calories. But in reality, when you break 8, you will realize that your great Tao increase has been weakened. Fang Ping frowned. Weakened? Why? The mighty power belongs to oneself. The heavenly King Jun said calmly, return to 1. The difference between breaking 8 and breaking 7 is actually not about the increase, but the return to 1. Breaking 7 is the true limit of essence, the true limit of the Tao. Perhaps you don't understand this. Under normal circumstances, martial artists can only break 7 and not 8. Breaking 8 means that you have already embarked on the path of returning to 1, returning to yourself. When you break 8, the stronger your strength is, the smaller the increase. Breaking 8 does not mean that the origin increases more and more, but it will become smaller and smaller. You have to know that when your origin no longer increases, you will be an emperor. Fang Ping was stunned. The heavenly King Jun continued, if when you break 8, your origin increases by 4 times, then the stronger you are, the smaller the increase. Very soon, it will become 3. 9 times 3. 8 times, of course, at this time. Your strength will not decline, it will only become stronger. Because your mighty power belongs to yourself. The stronger you are, the smaller the increase. Finally, you will complete the return to 1 and become an emperor. Fang Ping, Zhang Tao, and Old Man Li were all shocked. Breaking 8 was the process of weakening. Unbelievable. The heavenly King Jun laughed. You can't believe it, right? That's why many people don't understand why breaking 7 is the peak. That's the reason. As for beginner martial artists, it's not much different. They don't have the process of increasing or decreasing, but they can't do it like us, increasing a few times in one go. They all improve slowly. Forging jade bones is usually around breaking 7. To break 8, they can only improve slowly. So, breaking 8 will return to 1. Fang Ping was shocked and asked hurriedly, so, emperors are all their own strength? If that was the case, it was no different from his own source world. Then why did he not walk the origin Tao? What was wrong? Fang Ping suddenly remembered that the old cat seemed to have said that emperors did not need the origin to increase. He did not care about it before, but today he was shocked. Was there a difference in the middle? The heavenly King Jun thought for a while and said, it shouldn't be considered the return of one's own strength. Even if you break 3 gates and your own mighty power returns to 1, I have a feeling that even if you become an emperor, you should still rely on the origin Tao. Of course, I'm not an emperor now. I can't give you an accurate answer. When I become an emperor, I'll tell you. Fang Ping was speechless. After a while, he said, that's why the emperor path is flawed. That's right. Fang Ping understood. Today, knowing this from the heavenly King Jun was once again of great use to his martial arts. It turned out that returning to 1 was the goal of breaking 8. The limit of the origin was, in fact, breaking 7. No wonder even after breaking 8 and forging jade bones, it was still breaking 8 and not 9 directly. Fong Ping continued to ask while drinking. An old antique was an old antique. He was strong and lived for a long time, so he knew too much. In the past, the heavenly King Zhen did not say anything, but now he did not hide it anymore. It should be related to this domain that Fong Ping and the others were about to come into contact with. As he drank, Fong Ping used the alcohol to pretend to be a drunkard, calling him Godfather and asking a lot of things. In the end, the heavenly King Zhen almost thought that he had a son. Old John looked indifferent. Wait and see. When this kid breaks 8, you'll become brotherly. I know this very well. Back then, someone also asked him if he needed a son. Chapter 12:37. They ate and drank to their heart's content. The subduing heavenly king said a lot. He did not know how to quickly transform his mental strength. This was something that could only be achieved with time. How far was the great Tao? He did not know either. However, he knew that after 300,000 meters, he would be able to see the first door. As for which door it would depend on what you were good at. The second door was 60 meters away. The third door he didn't know. From this, it could be seen that the old man had seen the second door. As for whether he had broken it or not, Fong Ping did not want to guess. Maybe he had not. So after reaching the heavenly king stage, there will be a 0. 1 times increase in 20,000 meters? Not bad. Fong Ping asked again. Heavenly King Zhen chuckled and said, 300,000 meters is almost a 4-fold increase. After breaking through a door, there will no longer be any amplification. However, your power will gradually return to 1, and the various powers will start to fuse together. How much you can fuse will depend on you. What kind of power you use will depend on what you are good at. Fong Ping nodded. He did not really care about this. Right now, he was not going to take this path. But to break through the Sanjiao Gate, if I don't take the Great Tao path, Fong Ping pondered in his heart. Could it be that he had no way of breaking the door? Or was it necessary to use other methods? Roam the origin with the old cat, find the real door, break it, and complete the transformation? What the suppressing heavenly king and the others broke seemed to be projections of the portal. Fong Ping suspected that his own projection might not have appeared. If not, then to complete the third transformation, he would have to break the real portal. This was still a little far away. Fong Ping did not want to think about it anymore. Finally, he asked, then, how many powerhouses and Origins powerhouses are there who have integrated Earth? A fusion of Earth's cities. Heavenly King Zhen fell into deep thought. After thinking for a long time, he said, the ancient martial artists back then actually rose up on Earth. Fusing the origin with a materialized object is something that many people can do. Fusing a city on Earth. Heavenly King Zhen, Wang thought for a while, and said slowly, Emperor Donghuang seems to have fused before. After that, his chickens and dogs ascended to heaven. Back then, many people in his dojo achieved the Tao with him. The Beast Emperor had fused before, but he seemed to have fused with some islands in the Sea of Bitterness. The human sovereign might have done it, and he might have done it when he was in charge of the human realm later on. The God Emperor. The God Emperor was rather mysterious. He had always been cultivating, so he didn't have much contact with him. Mia might have done it too, but the world he descended upon seemed to be the heavenly realm. After thinking about it, Heavenly King Zhen continued, as for the one who created the origin source, I'm not too sure. I'm not familiar with him. I've met him once in the past, but it was just fate. He had listed quite a number of people. Fong Ping raised his eyebrows. It wasn't just one or two, but several of them. The East Emperor, the Beast Emperor, the Human Emperor, Mia, the Divine Emperor, and the one who created the origin, all of these people were possible. In that case, it would be difficult to judge. Fang Ping did not ask further. He continued drinking and chatting. After bidding farewell to the Heavenly King, Fang Ping continued to integrate Magic City for the next 2 days. Shanghai was too big, and the integration was not something that could be done in a short time. 2 days later, Fang Ping had almost integrated the rough outline of Magic City into his source world. In the past 2 days, the strength of the martial artists in Demonic City had been rising steadily. One by one, the martial artists broke through to the next realm, becoming stronger and stronger. Shanghai had always been a gathering place for martial arts powerhouses. There were many martial artists here. There were tens of millions of martial artists in China, and Shanghai had more than 2 million martial artists. Magic City also occupied about 1/3 of the high-ranked martial artists in Sino Nation. This time, there were even more high-ranked martial artists who had advanced to the next realm, becoming stronger and stronger. This included some people from MCMAU who had improved this time. The Great Path had loosened. Previously, when it was close to the human world, some rank 9 martial artists who seized the opportunity that day could walk a few hundred meters in a day. 2 days later, on the 18th of May, on this day, not only was the integration of Magic City successful, but the system had also completed its upgrade after 6 days. Sky Island. In the cultivation room, Fang Ping's body trembled slightly. He opened his eyes. At that moment, the system had completed its upgrade, and the screen was no longer black. This time, however, Fang Ping was not as excited as he was in the past. There was more indifference and calmness. The system had provided him with a lot of help. If it was an inanimate object, then so be it. If in the end, this thing was involved with some invincible powerhouses, then it would be troublesome. Fang Ping exhaled softly and looked at the system data. He did not know what changes there were this time. Wealth, 105 billion points vitality, 2,920,000 calories, 2,920,000 calories, mentality, 22,999 hertz, 22,999 hertz, origin path, plus 150%, external path, origin world, 699 meters combat techniques, god-slaying saber techniques, plus 9%, origin energy conversion, 100,000 points / cloud imperishable substance conversion, 10,000 points / yuan energy shield, 1 point / minute, plus aura simulation, 10 points / minute, plus origin detailed analysis, 10-100 million points / time combat technique combination deduction, 1 million points / time unity. Spiritualism path, 100 calories vitality to 1 hertz mentality physique path, 1 hertz mentality to 100 calories vitality, irreversible, strength control, 80% limit outburst, 6050240 cal / 7562800 cal. Fang Ping frowned and fell into deep thought. Unity, there was no excitement, only a frown. The system had a new function, unity. This was similar to what he had guessed. But this so-called conversion and irreversible, what did it mean? Spiritualism path, physique path, Fang Ping mumbled to himself. He seemed to have understood a little. King Suppressing had said that when it came to Breaking 8, it was all about unity. No matter how many types of strength there were, in the end, it was nothing more than 2 forms. One was mentality strength, the other was physique strength, which was actually also vitality strength. Was this so-called unity to convert these 2 types of strength into one another? Irreversible. Did this mean that after conversion, it could not be converted back? Spiritualism path. After my vitality is converted into mentality, I will become a mentality path cultivator. And after converting physique path, I might become a powerhouse like Emperor Batian? Fang Ping frowned. This time, when the new function of the system appeared, he was a little unsure if he should use it. A long time ago, Fang Ping actually understood a principle. Being too biased in one subject was not necessarily a good thing. Old man, Li was biased in one subject more seriously. Among the four extreme emperors, Emperor Batian and Emperor Batian were also biased in one subject more seriously. According to the new function of the system, this was obviously making Fang Ping start to be biased in one subject. 1 Hertz mentality to convert to 100 calories vitality. This should be referring to basic vitality and basic mentality. After the conversion, his basic vitality might be as high as more than 5 million calories. If the origin enhancement could be used again, then Fang Ping would directly possess the strength of breaking 7. Temptation, a great temptation. If vitality was converted into mentality, his mentality could quickly reach more than 50,000 hertz. More than 50,000 hertz. That was also the mentality of breaking 7 heavenly kings. At that time, Fang Ping's mentality would be incomparably strong. He would not need a physical body to condense a powerful mentality body. In the origin world, in the mentality world, he could unleash even more power. He could break into the origin and destroy the enemy's mentality, more than 50,000 hertz mentality. Mentality cultivators seem to have an origin enhancement too. Without the enhancement of the physical body, there would be an increase in mentality. In this way, after the enhancement, his mentality would be even stronger. This was something that physique path could not compare to. Under normal circumstances, the origin enhancement would only increase one aspect. It would either be the physical body or mentality. It depended on what your focus was and what path you mainly took. When the two were about the same, it was usually the physical body that was enhanced. If there was more emphasis on mentality, it would increase mentality. In this way, after the enhancement, Fang Ping's mentality would exceed 100,000 hertz. According to ability, he would be almost as strong as a 10 million calories powerhouse. In other words, if the current Fang Ping underwent a conversion, he would become a breakthrough 7 powerhouse. However, the path he took might be equivalent to one of the extreme paths. The strength of a breakthrough 8 powerhouse was also in the process of unification. Would the final result of unification be the same? It would be either the physical body or the spiritual consciousness. No, breakthrough 8 seems to be more comprehensive. Could it be that this thing of mine was left behind by an extreme path heavenly emperor? That might not be the case. The system gave 2 choices. It shouldn't be an extreme path heavenly emperor. Usually there is only one choice for extreme path. Why would the system give such a result? Fang Ping frowned. Why? Why would there be a choice of unification and one path? Unification of strength. This was what Fang Ping pursued. It was also what all powerhouses pursued. However, what Fang Ping pursued was not a bias in strength. He needed overall strength. Now, however, the system had given him a new choice. After unification, Fang Ping would soon become a breakthrough 7 powerhouse. Is it because the system can't provide higher-end strength, that kind of comprehensive unification nature of energy? Or could it be that the creator of the system had not actually reached that step and did not carry out comprehensive unification, resulting in a deviation in strength? This time, Fang Ping really had a headache. After the system upgrade, a headache-inducing choice appeared. Should he continue on his own path or proceed with unification? Converting mentality into vitality, his base was more than 5 million calories. If the origin path could still be borrowed, then it would be breakthrough 7. if it could not be borrowed, his origin world should still be usable. If this continued, there was hope that he could achieve breakthrough 7 very soon. Breakthrough 7 of his own strength. Fong Ping fell into deep thought. Maybe I don't have to be so extreme. I can still choose to balance both. My mentality has always been weaker than my vitality. Maybe I can use this function to make both reach a state of balance so that there will no longer be an imbalance in strength. Is this considered a third choice? Fong Ping did not know if this was the system's hidden third choice. Actually, it was possible to balance both of them. However, it was not reflected. The system only presented 2 choices. After balancing, will my strength decline? Converting vitality into some mentality. When mentality became stronger, vitality would weaken. At this time, what kind of changes would occur? Mentality was related to the origin world. When that happened, would the origin world expand? If the origin world expanded, it would nourish vitality and mentality. If that was the case, then it would not be considered a loss. However, if it did not work, then Fong Ping's current strength would decline. Will my control over my power increase after I've achieved balance? Fong Ping pondered again. Right now, his strength control was not high. On one hand, it was because of the origin path's amplification. On the other hand, it was also related to the imbalance of his mentality and vitality. Under normal circumstances, powerhouses who achieved Breakthrough 6 would have at least 40,000 hertz of mentality. Breaking 7 meant that it was at least 50,000 hertz. Fong Ping, on the other hand, only had emperor-level mentality. However, he had mastered the vitality force of Breakthrough 6. Fong Ping walked out of the secret chamber with doubts and hesitation. This time, the system had given him a difficult problem. It was no longer a single choice. At this moment, perhaps there were some people who could provide him with some help. Half an hour later, in the conference room, the cat looked at Fong Ping in a daze. Heavenly King Garrison appeared on the projector. Old Manly hugged his sword and looked at Fong Ping. Zhang Tao, on the other hand, felt a little strange. Fong Ping pondered for a while and said, "This time, I've troubled all of you because there are some cultivation problems that need to be solved." "Tell us about it." Zhang Tao laughed. "Aren't you omnipotent, Fong Ping? There's still a problem that you need us to solve." Fong Ping was speechless. He said, "After all, my cultivation time is too short. It's only been 3 years. I'm only 21 years old this year." "Stop." Zhang Tao's expression darkened. "Say it again." "We'll leave immediately." Fong Ping said helplessly, "I'm serious. It's true that I'm lacking in experience. Now that I've encountered a problem, I need everyone's help. Aren't you pointing out my shortcomings?" Old Manly was tired. He said, tiredly, "Just tell us the problem. There's no need to mention anything else." Fong Ping pursed his lips and continued, "It's like this. In the cultivation of martial arts, even at the beginning, it seems like there are thousands of Daos. However, in reality, I think there are only 3 paths in the end. First, the flesh and vitality. Second, mentality. Third, neck and neck. The third path usually represents mediocrity. The 4 emperors of extreme path actually cultivated the first and second 2 paths. Everyone nodded slightly. Heavenly King Jun said, "You can say that." Battle and Celestial Emperor Batian cultivated the first path. Annihilation cultivated the second path. Battle is actually neck and neck. It's considered the third path. As for the 9 emperors, they also cultivated the third path. Fong Ping asked, "Then, what are the advantages and disadvantages of the first and second paths?" "The advantages are obvious. If you focus on one path, you'll progress faster. The difficulty will be slightly lower, and the possibility of success will be greater. For example, Celestial Emperor Batian and Battle have gone very, very far in terms of their flesh and energy. That's why they're incomparably powerful. Even emperors might not be their opponents because of their mediocrity. Of course, the shortcomings are also obvious. Take Celestial Emperor Batian, for example. He tends to focus on his flesh and vitality. His mentality is slightly weaker. That's why, when he encounters powerhouses who are good at mentality, he'll be slightly restrained. There's also Annihilation. He's good at mentality, but his flesh is weak. It's very easy for others to destroy his flesh in an instant. In this way, although his mentality is still strong, his flesh is still his foundation. Without his flesh, his combat strength will be affected. Moreover, his mentality will easily become rootless duckweed. As for neck and neck, there are two outcomes. One is mediocrity, being good at nothing. The other is strength, being good at everything and reaching the pinnacle in everything. Mentality is comparable to Annihilation, and flesh is comparable to Celestial Emperor Batian. Such a powerhouse might be able to fight 2 Celestial Emperors and 2 Annihilations. Heavenly King Zhen laughed. Of course, being good at everything is very, very difficult, but in reality, in the end, the potential of neck should be greater. Fong Ping nodded slightly and looked at the cat. Seeing that it was still a little confused, he patted the cat's head and asked, "Big cat, you should be considered to be neck and neck. Your mentality and flesh have reached a balance. In the end, your strength can also be unified. What kind of strength is this unified strength?" After being patted by him, the cat felt a little wronged. It thought for a while and said, "I don't know, think carefully before you say it." Fong Ping looked threatening. He knew that it would say it did not know. The cat felt even more wronged. It said pitifully, "I don't know. I'm not a neck and neck Dao because my mentality seems to be slightly stronger than my flesh. It's very difficult to achieve balance. If you want balance, then you need to constantly maintain this balance. If you can maintain this balance, then maybe a new kind of balance strength can appear." It was rare for the cat to talk about a big principle. Fong Ping listened for a while and looked at Heavenly King Zhen. Heavenly King Zhen thought for a while and said, "The cat is right. It's too difficult to maintain the balance of 2 kinds of strength. People like us are actually a little biased. There are more or less problems, including Celestial Emperor. It's not that Celestial Emperor doesn't have mentality. It's just that his flesh is strong and it covers up his mentality. It's the same for Annihilation. If you really want to say it, maintaining balance, maybe." Heavenly King Zhen glanced at Old Man Li and thought for a while before saying, "Maybe Li Changsheng is a little different. His mentality has merged with all his strength. This situation is actually very rare, especially now. He seems to have broken through a boundary. His strength now is actually not pure vitality, force, and mentality. If you can maintain this balance, a situation like this may happen in the end. Of course, Li Changxing still has a flaw. His flaw is that he can merge but not divide." Fong Ping frowned and said, "Can he merge but not divide?" "Yes." Heavenly King Zhen laughed and said, "The so-called extreme is strong in everything. Actually, it shouldn't be like this. For example, if your strength is merged, then you will become like Li Changsheng. All strength is one. This should make you stronger. However, at critical moments, your strength can also be divided. Mentality is still mentality. Vitality force is still vitality force. In this way, you will be stronger, more comprehensive, and more targeted. When you need to defend, you can make your flesh stronger to defend against the opponent's physical attacks. You can also make your mentality stronger to defend against the opponent's spiritual consciousness attacks. Do whatever you want: targeted attack and defense. This is more comprehensive. Heavenly King Jin continued, Li Changsheng is very powerful now. He has just entered the peak, and now he almost has the combat strength of a saint. However, I want to ask, how will he continue to become stronger? Heavenly King Jin looked at Old Man Li and said with a smile, if you want to improve now, you can only improve your overall strength. This is actually very difficult. However, it is different for others. When you can improve your flesh, you can improve your mentality. When your mentality is strong, it might be able to reflect back on your flesh. Similarly, the reverse is the same. Extreme Tao, then focus on one Tao. You are different. You focus on all Tao, so you will improve quickly in the early stage. However, in the later stage, you will definitely slow down. You might even lose your direction and fall into a complete standstill. Old Man Li nodded slightly. In a low voice, he said, that's a problem. If I were to improve my abilities, I'd need to spend more time and effort. I'm improving fast now because I've only just started on this path. When I reach the later stages, there'll probably be huge obstacles. That's right. Heavenly King Jin laughed and said, this is the drawback of your Tao. Of course, it doesn't mean that this Tao is bad, because no one knows when you will fall into a bottleneck. At this point, Zhang Tao continued the conversation and looked at Fang Ping. What problem did you encounter? Fang Ping knocked on the table. After a while, he said, there should be no problem. I want to try the Tao of balance. I want to cultivate my mentality and golden body to the extreme. I feel that if I achieve Emperor in the end, I might be more powerful. Then I will return the power to myself. I feel that when that time comes, I might be a combination of beginner emperor and origin emperor. The few of them were speechless. He was already thinking about becoming an emperor. This kid's ambition was not small. His confidence was also so strong that it was scary. However, Fang Ping did not care about this. He felt that the new function of the system did not lie in the two options shown, but in the hidden third option, balance. Balance his vitality and mentality. After balancing my vitality and mentality, my vitality will drop a little. However, if my vitality drops, I might be able to improve even more soon. Lowering it might not be a bad thing. During the battle between the North and the South, who was stronger and who was weaker had been debating for many years. In the end, the results showed that both sides could not do it. They would all be finished. In the battle between the 4 emperors and the 9 emperors, the 9 emperors should have won in the end. There was no other reason. 3 of the 4 emperors had reincarnated, but the 9 emperors might not. Back then, Old Wang had also said that the 9 emperors had to be more balanced. From the looks of it, it was not a good thing to take the extreme path. Fang Ping made up his mind and did not hesitate anymore. He wanted to balance his mentality and vitality. 100. This was the balance data for the current stage. Once it was balanced, Fang Ping felt that there might be some unexpected changes. After all, almost no one could maintain an absolute balance between the two. In fact, he had eaten a pill given by Heavenly Emperor Xian Ming back then and balanced his strength. During that time, Fang Ping's strength had improved very quickly. At that time, he might not have reached the point of balance. It was clear that balance was not a bad thing. I understand. Thank you very much. I'll leave first, then. Fang Ping got up and was about to leave. Zhang Tao was helpless. Seeing this, he quickly said, "Don't cultivate too much and don't be too anxious. Recently, some things have happened in the 3 realms. Read up on the intel when you have time." Got it. Fang Ping did not say much. He wanted to try it out. He was a little impatient. As for what happened in the 3 realms, he was not anxious now. Anyway, there was no change in the sky, and no powerhouses died. He did not need to care too much about these. Watching him leave in a hurry, Heavenly King Jin did not say anything else. Instead, he glanced at the cat and said with a smile, "Cat, come to my source world when you have time. There's delicious food at the end of my dao." The cat swayed its body and left directly without looking back. It swayed and muttered, "Big idiot, damn old man. He lied to me to dig a tunnel for you. I'm not stupid." Zhang Tao was stunned. He looked at Heavenly King Jin, a little puzzled. Heavenly King Jin grinned. "It's nothing. Can't this cat roam the source? At the end of the Tao, we can't see the back. It might not be able to see it. Let it dig from the opposite side to take a look. It might be useful." Zhang Tao was stunned. Then his eyes lit up. Could it be done? Could it really be done? Their Tao had been opened to the end now. It was considered blocked. If they wanted to continue opening up, they could either continue to open up ahead, or it was not impossible to go in the opposite direction. Of course, they could not do it. But what about the cat? Old Zhang suddenly thought of something and said hurriedly, "Can it enter the Sanjiao gate? Try going in the opposite direction from the Sanjiao gate." "I don't know about that. Maybe it's possible." Heavenly King Subduing smiled and said, "What I meant just now was to let it try." The interior of the Sanjiao gate should be considered the source universe, but no one has tried it before. Whether this cat can walk through it is unknown, but it might be possible. You can try to fool it. Zhang Tao looked at the cat in the distance. He looked at it swaying and salivated a little. This scene made Old Man Li speechless. Could you not stare at the cats, and drip saliva? Those who did not know better would think that you were up to something. Of course, he knew what old Zhang meant. It was nothing more than tricking the cat to do manual labor. However, this cat was not stupid. It ran away as soon as Heavenly King Jin said so. It might not be easy to trick the cat. You're tuning in to the Mystic Fist YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.